Chapter 24:31. Elder Ling Xiao, every time the Heavenly Road opens, it is at the peak of Heavenly Mountain. Heavenly Mountain is located in the far west, thousands of miles away from here. At the same time, it is also the place where Patriarch Tai attained his Tao. Legend has it that in ancient times, Tai Sec's mountain gate was on Heavenly Mountain, but for some reason, it moved to Taichung Mountain. Heavenly Mountain is a secret realm. Not only does it contain the mysterious Heavenly Road, but it also contains the inheritance of Tai sect. Elder Ling Xiao, you can go to Heavenly Mountain and explore it. Perhaps you will gain something. This is the map I prepared for you, as well as the information of those 3 people. I hope Elder Ling Xiao can gain something from this trip. Qin Feng said slowly, then took out a scroll and handed it to Ling Xiao. Legend has it that one could reach the eternal divine realm by following the Heavenly Road, but this road was too difficult. Since ancient times, very few people had succeeded. But anyone who stepped on the Heavenly Road, even if they could not enter the divine realm, would still gain a lot of opportunities. Qin Feng knew that although Ling Xiao's talent was extraordinary, he did not think that he could enter the divine realm. That was why Tai Xuanzi let Ling Xiao enter the Heavenly Road to find the 2nd volume of Tai scripture. Thank you. Ling Xiao nodded. The scroll was prepared by Qin Feng long ago. Not only did it contain the map of Heavenly Mountain, it also contained information about Demon Sect's sect master Chong Lu, Heaven's secret sect's all-seer, and Great Zhou's ancestor Murong Jin. These 3 people could be said to be the 3 strongest masters in the world. Tai sect naturally collected a lot of information about them. Brother Ling Xiao, I hope you have a safe trip. Qin Yao raised her head and looked at Ling Xiao. She seemed to have thousands of words to say, but when the words reached her mouth, they turned into a simple blessing. I will be back. Ling Xiao smiled at Qin Yao. His smile was bright, and for some reason, Qin Yao's mood began to improve. Sect Master, the Grand Master realm is like this sea of clouds. It is born in heaven and earth, but also independent of heaven and earth. It borrows the power of heaven and earth, but also changes according to your heart. You can carefully understand it. I'm going. Ling Xiao suddenly turned his head to look at Qin Feng. His voice was like the rumbling of thunder. At the same time, it contained an indescribable charm. Then, he instantly leaped up and transformed into a resplendent golden light, disappearing into the horizon. The sea of clouds is born from the heavens and earth, yet it is independent of the heavens and earth. It borrows the power of the heavens and earth to move, yet it can transform according to its will. Qin Feng mumbled to himself. Ling Xiao's words were like a great bell, causing his entire body to tremble. His eyes flickered with uncertainty as he stared at the sea of clouds before him. It was as if he had sunk into a wondrous state of comprehension. Father, Qin Yao turned her head and wanted to say something, but she felt that there was a vast and mysterious aura spreading from Qin Feng's body, as if he had merged with the surrounding heaven and earth. Qin Yao hurriedly covered her mouth. Her eyes were filled with incomparable surprise. Father, could it be that he's breaking through to the Master Realm? At the same time, she was also incomparably shocked. Ling Xiao's words actually caused Qin Feng to enter a state of breakthrough. Then what realm had Ling Xiao's cultivation reached? A few days ago, Ling Xiao's cultivation was the same as hers, only at the peak of the Hotian realm. However, a few days later, Ling Xiao had undergone a complete transformation and had actually become a master. The gap between him and me is still too big. Qin Yao smiled bitterly in her heart, then shook her head and quietly left the top of the Greater One peak. Subsequently, the several elders of the Greater One sect were incomparably excited. They listed the top of the Greater One peak as a forbidden area and firmly protected it. They were waiting for Qin Feng to wake up, waiting for the birth of a new master of the Greater One sect. Heavenly Mountain. Heavenly Mountain was located in the extreme west of the Great Zhou dynasty. It was the border of the Great Zhou dynasty. To the west of Heavenly Mountain was an endless desert without any life. Heavenly Mountain was tens of thousands of feet high, towering and majestic. It was incomparably magnificent, like a divine pillar that connected the sky and the sun, making it impossible for people to see the top of the mountain. In this world, Heavenly Mountain was the residence of the gods in the myths and legends. It was said that Heavenly Mountain was directly connected to the God realm, and one could reach the God realm by following Heavenly Mountain. Thousands of years ago, the ancestor of the Greater One sect had attained the Tao at Heavenly Mountain. He shattered the void and left behind endless legends, creating the martial arts of this world, making the legends of Heavenly Mountain more and more realistic. However, Heavenly Mountain was incomparably steep. It was said that even birds could not cross it, and the peak of the mountain was densely covered with endless lightning all year round. It was a forbidden area for living creatures. Therefore, although there were many legends about Heavenly Mountain, because of the precipitousness of Heavenly Mountain, there were very few people who dared to come to Heavenly Mountain. However, in the past few days, more and more people came to Heavenly Mountain. It could be seen from the small town at the foot of Heavenly Mountain that there were many more strangers in the town. Most of them were Jianghu people with swords on their backs. Even the inns were overcrowded. Have you heard? The leader of the demon sect has come out of the heavenly road. I heard that he found the second volume of the Greater One Scripture. What? The second volume of the Greater One Scripture? The Greater One Scripture is said to be the #1 divine technique in the world, even more powerful than the demon sect's Void Heaven divine technique. It's just that the second volume was lost many years ago. Now that the Greater One sect is in decline, they only have the first volume of the Greater One Scripture in their hands. Since the second volume of the Greater One Scripture has fallen into the hands of the demon sect, then the demon sect shouldn't let the Greater One sect go, right? Who says it isn't? I heard that the demon sect has already sent Venerable Heian and 2 Shakyamuni to destroy the Greater One sect and snatch the first volume of the Greater One Scripture, but they failed. They all died in the Greater One sect. Hiss. How is that possible? 3 great masters made a move and they all died? Didn't the Greater One sect say that there was only one great master in the sect? Isn't that so? But no one knows what's going on. They only know that the demon sect's people are all dead. This is big news. The demon sect's leader is probably furious this time, but I heard that All-Seer and Murong Jin have already arrived. 3 great masters are all going to break through the heavenly road. I'm afraid he can't split himself. That's right. But I reckon that this time, the Greater One sect has completely angered the demon sect. When the heavenly road disappears, I'm afraid that the Greater One sect will really be destroyed. In a restaurant in the small town, all kinds of Jianghu people were sitting. Everyone was talking about the recent events that had happened in the Jianghu. A white-clothed youth sat alone at a table, drinking by himself. He looked handsome and elegant, with an extraordinary temperament. As he drank, he listened to the discussions of the people around him. The white-clothed youth was naturally Ling Xiao. After he left the Greater One sect that day, he experienced the local customs of the Great Zhou dynasty. He was not in a hurry, so he used half a month's time to cross thousands of miles and arrive at the foot of the heavenly mountain. Chapter 2432. Ling Xiao did not expect the news of the Greater One sect's battle to spread so quickly. Even the people at the foot of Sky Mountain thousands of miles away knew about it. However, he also understood that there was no need to worry about the Greater One sect. The demon cult had no time to be distracted and was already involved in the Heaven's Road. Even if they wanted to settle accounts with the Greater One sect, it would be after the end of the Heaven's Road. Ling Xiao rested in this small town to inquire about some information and understand the situation of Sky Mountain before going up the mountain. Little friend, I see that your glabella is dark and your eyes are dull. This old Taoist pinched his fingers and divined that you will definitely have a bloody disaster today. Suddenly, an old voice sounded in Ling Xiao's ears. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he realized that there was an old Taoist priest standing beside him, holding a horsetail whisk and wearing a tattered Taoist robe. His hair and beard were very long, and he looked like an immortal. However, his eyes were rolling around, and no matter how one looked at him, he gave off a very cunning feeling. This old man didn't seem to have any cultivation, but he stood silently beside Ling Xiao, so Ling Xiao didn't notice him at all. If it's not the demon cult's master Chong Lu, then is it All-Seer or Murong Jin? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat as he thought to himself. Perhaps others could not see the old man's cultivation, but what kind of insight did he have? Almost instantly, he sensed that the old man's cultivation had reached the peak of the master realm. The innate qi in his body was incomparably vigorous, far surpassing his own. It was just that he used a secret method to hide his aura. According to Tai Xuanzi's guess, there were only 3 great masters in the world who could make Ling Xiao cautious. However, the old Taoist priest in front of him was definitely not Chong Lu. Then, he did not know whether it was All-Seer or Murong Jin. The old Taoist chuckled and sat down opposite Ling Xiao without hesitation. Then, he poured himself a glass of wine and took a sip, appearing to be at ease. Oh. Does Taoist priest think there's a way to resolve it? Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. His expression was incomparably calm as he raised his glass and drank it in one gulp, as if he was not surprised at all. Little friend, you have a good temperament. This old Taoist priest is in a good mood today, and I find you quite pleasing to the eye. Then, I will reluctantly give you some guidance, but the method cannot be taught easily. There was a strange look in the old Taoist priest's eyes, but then he revealed an incomparably unscrupulous expression. He stretched out 2 fingers and rubbed it. Taoist priest, I don't have any money. Ling Xiao said indifferently. It doesn't matter if you don't have money. I see that your pendant is not bad. Give it to this old Taoist, and this old Taoist will tell you how to resolve the bloody disaster. How about that? The old Taoist chuckled as his gaze landed on Ling Xiao's neck. Around Ling Xiao's neck was the pendant that Nan Nan gave him. It was sparkling and translucent, and the figure on it was very lifelike. Ling Xiao did not hide it under his clothes, but rather exposed it. Pendant? I'm sorry. Taoist priest, this is a family heirloom. You can't give it away. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He glanced at the old Taoist before regaining his composure. The old Taoist recognized the pendant. Although Ling Xiao's heart was moved, he didn't show it on his face. He stood up, took the dry food and water that the waiter had prepared, and then turned to walk out. Don't go, my young friend. We can talk things over. The pendant you're wearing isn't a protective amulet. It's a death curse. If you don't give it to this old Taoist, there will really be a bloody disaster today. The old Taoist priest was stunned when he saw Ling Xiao walk away. He then hurriedly chased after him. Ling Xiao ignored the old Taoist priest and continued walking towards the top of Sky Mountain. Sky Mountain was extremely vast, but there was a limestone path that led to the top of the mountain. On both sides of the path were towering ancient trees, making it look very lush. The scenery was extremely magnificent. As Ling Xiao walked, the old Taoist priest followed him. He seemed to be extremely patient as he chattered non-stop behind Ling Xiao. He wanted to get the pendant around Ling Xiao's neck. However, what made Ling Xiao curious was that the old Taoist priest didn't snatch it away directly. Ling Xiao didn't know his intentions, so he didn't expose his identity. Instead, he continued walking towards the top of Sky Mountain. His steps were very light. At the beginning, there were still some people from the pugilistic world on the mountain path. However, Ling Xiao soon left them behind. The mountain path led straight up, and only Ling Xiao and the old Taoist priest were left. The surroundings were misty, and it was as if they were in paradise. Taoist priest, you've been following me all the way. I've already said that the pendant is a family heirloom. I can't give it to you. You'd better give up. Ling Xiao suddenly stopped in his tracks and smiled at the old Taoist priest. Young friend, I've already said that if you don't give the pendant to me, there will be a bloody disaster today. I believe that you'll be willing to give the pendant to me. The old Taoist priest chuckled and said confidently. Just as the old Taoist priest finished speaking, a crisp and pleasant sound of a zither rang out. It was ethereal, and there was no trace of it. However, it came from afar and soon arrived behind Ling Xiao and the old Taoist priest. It was 4 young girls dressed in light muslin. Their figures were graceful, and their faces were beautiful. However, their footsteps were extremely vigorous. The 4 of them carried a carriage from the bottom of the mountain. They walked on the winding path as if they were walking on flat ground. The carriage was covered by light muslin, and a young man could be vaguely seen sitting on it. He was playing the zither, and the sound of the zither just now came from the carriage. A sharp light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. He could see that the 4 young girls were all in the Xiantian realm. They had opened more than half of their divine treasures, and could be considered to be in the late stage of the Xiantian realm. As for the young man on the carriage, he was clearly a martial master. Young Master Wushuang's carriage is here. Make way quickly. The 4 young girls quickly arrived behind the old Taoist priest and Ling Xiao. One of the young girls' eyes was extremely cold as she scolded Ling Xiao and the old Taoist priest. Young Master Wushuang. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He had heard Qin Yao mention him several times in a very admiring tone. It was said that young Master Wushuang was a rare genius with unparalleled talent. Now that he had seen him, he was indeed very impressive. He looked like he was only in his 20s, but he had already become a martial master. The old Taoist priest chuckled and did not have any objections. He directly made way for them. Ling Xiao thought in his heart and did not lower himself to the same level as the 4 young girls. He moved slightly to the side and made way for them. Whoosh! Like a gust of wind, they floated in front of Ling Xiao, emitting a faint fragrance. However, just as they passed by Ling Xiao, they suddenly stopped in front of Ling Xiao and the old Taoist priest. Friend, the pendant you are wearing seems to belong to an old friend of mine. I am willing to pay 10,000 taels of silver. I wonder if you would be willing to part with it. An elegant and clear voice sounded from the carriage. Chapter 24:33. The wind gently blew the veil on the carriage, revealing the figure of a young man. He was a handsome young man with eyes like stars, eyebrows like swords, skin like jade, and a faint smile on his face. He exuded an elegant and bright temperament. Young master is unparalleled in this world. This young Master Wushuang is a rare genius seen once in 1,000 years. The old Taoist priest chuckled beside Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao frowned. Young Master Peerless did indeed have a good appearance, but he actually took a fancy to the pendant on Ling Xiao's body at first glance. This made Ling Xiao instinctively unhappy. I'm sorry. The pendant is my family heirloom. I'm not selling it. Ling Xiao replied indifferently. 100,000 taels. Friend, if you're willing to sell the pendant to me, I'll pay you 100,000 taels. Young Master Wushuang smiled and increased the price tenfold. He seemed to value the pendant on Ling Xiao very much and was determined to get it. I'm not selling it. I said, I won't sell it even if it's 1 million or 10 million taels. If there's nothing else, please leave. Ling Xiao's voice was cold. How dare you? Is it your fortune that young Master Wushuang has taken a fancy to your pendant? How dare you not sell it? Hand it over. A beautiful young girl's eyes turned cold. Her body flashed and she grabbed the pendant on Ling Xiao's neck, intending to snatch it. Young Master Wushuang had a faint smile on his face, as if he had no intention of stopping her. Brat, I told you that you'll be in trouble. Am I right? But if you're willing to give me the pendant now, I promise you'll be safe. The old Taoist priest gloated beside Ling Xiao. Get lost. Ling Xiao ignored the old Taoist priest. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he punched out. Bang! The innate qi around the young girl was shattered instantly. She was sent flying by Ling Xiao's punch and was about to fall off the cliff. Whoosh! A string from young Master Wushuang's fingertips swept out and wrapped around the young girl, pulling her back to the mountain path. What? Young Master Wushuang, are you going to rob me? Ling Xiao said expressionlessly. I made a mistake in my judgment. He didn't expect his friend to be an expert. However, the pendant in your hand belongs to an old friend of mine. It is extremely important to me. I only did this in a moment of desperation. Please forgive us. Let's go. Young Master Peerless looked at Ling Xiao in surprise. Then, he cupped his hands and smiled apologetically at Ling Xiao. Then, he instructed the 4 girls. The 4 girls looked at Ling Xiao with unfriendly gazes, but they still raised their carriages and rushed towards the peak of the mountain. The sharpness in Ling Xiao's eyes dimmed and eventually returned to normal. He did not choose to attack young Master Wushuang. Little friend, you're really good at enduring. That young Master Wushuang is about to snatch the pendant himself, and you can still hold back. I thought you were going to have a big fight with him here. The old Taoist priest looked at Ling Xiao in surprise. Taoist priest, do you know the background of this young Master Wushuang? Ling Xiao asked calmly. The reason why he did not attack young Master Wushuang was because he sensed a familiar aura from young Master Wushuang. It was the energy fluctuation of the Greater One Scripture. Young Master Wushuang actually cultivated the Greater One Scripture. This was something Ling Xiao did not expect. Ling Xiao felt that this was not a good time to make a move. He wanted to see what young Master Wushuang wanted to do. Young Master Wushuang's background is mysterious. No one knows. However, I know your background. You're Ling Xiao, the one who killed the demon sect's Dark Venerable and 2 Shakyamuni, right? TSK. At such a young age, you've already broken through to the master level. This talent probably surpasses young Master Wushuang's. The old Taoist priest looked at Ling Xiao and smiled. You can see my background. Are you all seer or Murong Jin? Ling Xiao did not seem surprised at all. He looked at the old Taoist priest and asked. I knew I couldn't hide it from you. I'm all seer. I really didn't expect the Greater One sect to produce such a peerless genius like you. It's really unbelievable. The old Taoist priest did not hide anything and directly admitted it. All seer. Why are you following me? Ling Xiao frowned and stared at the old Taoist priest. Of course it's for the pendant on your body. I didn't expect you to have the Greater One divine statue. This is a good thing. Legend has it that obtaining the Greater One divine statue is obtaining the approval of the Greater One ancestral master. On the heaven's road, one can turn misfortune into fortune and obtain great fortune. All seers stared at Ling Xiao's pendant and said. Greater One divine statue. This is the Greater One ancestral master. Ling Xiao was slightly surprised. He did not expect All Seer to recognize the origin of the pendant. So the person on the pendant was the Greater One ancestral master. But why did Qin Feng, Qin Yao, and the others not recognize it? Of course. The Greater One ancestral master is the ancestor of my human race. Not only did he leave behind the martial arts inheritance, he also created a glorious era for my human race. I don't know where you got this great fortune from. On this trip to the Heavens Road, I saw that your luck was the greatest, so I followed behind you to freeload a bit of fortune. All Seer said matter-of-factly, without the slightest hesitation. Then do as you wish. Ling Xiao said noncommittally, then turned and walked towards the top of the mountain. Heaven's mountain towered into the clouds, and the closer one got to the peak, the steeper it became. There were towering ancient trees all around, as well as strangely shaped rocks that even emitted wisps of mysterious light. Rumble. Ling Xiao heard a violent roar of thunder, causing the surrounding sky to tremble violently. The brilliant heavenly might was unparalleled, and anyone in front of this heavenly might would unconsciously tremble. Ling Xiao raised his head and saw dark clouds rolling in the sky. Thick bolts of lightning danced wildly like long snakes, striking down from the 9 heavens and landing directly on the peak of Heaven's mountain, turning it into a forbidden land of lightning. Is this the peak of Heaven's mountain? It actually gathered so much lightning energy. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed slightly, but he was somewhat excited in his heart. He sensed an incomparably vast lightning energy from the lightning in front of him. It was the pure energy of heaven and earth, which could be absorbed and refined. In Ling Zhao's memory, there were thousands of techniques and thousands of divine skills, but this world was a forgotten world. There was no spiritual energy of heaven and earth, no essence of the sun and moon, and even the most common Xianhuang source qi was extremely rare. Therefore, although Ling Zhao had countless techniques in his hands, he could not cultivate them. However, the lightning in front of him made Ling Zhao's heart beat faster. Chapter 24-34. Heaven's Path. Could this really be a heaven's path that leads to the divine world? Otherwise, why would there be such pure lightning energy here when there is no other energy in this world? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he thought to himself. Ling Zhao, this is the peak of Sky Mountain. The peak of Sky Mountain is covered by endless lightning all year round. Only when the heaven's path appears will the lightning weaken. Look, that's the heaven's path. All-Seer pointed to the front as if they were very familiar with each other and said to Ling Zhao. Heaven's path. Ling Zhao's gaze also landed in front of him. The peak of Sky Mountain was a platform that was as smooth as a mirror. It looked very ordinary and was covered in blazing lightning. However, Ling Zhao saw a mysterious path in the air that seemed to lead to an unknown world. The path was dazzling and sparkled with stars. It was so dazzling that it seemed as though one could step on it. Ling Zhao was very sensitive and felt a fluctuation in time and space. Although he didn't know where the heaven's path led to, Ling Zhao was sure that it did lead to an unknown time and space. If it really leads to an unknown time and space, will there be origin energy there? Ling Zhao thought to himself as his heart skipped a beat. Dozens of figures had already gathered at the peak of Sky Mountain. Young Master Wushuang, whom Ling Zhao had met before, was also among them. The auras of those figures were extremely powerful. Most of them were in the Grandmaster realm. Only a few of them were in the Inborn realm. After seeing Ling Zhao and All-Seer appear, there were only a few gazes that shot over before they quickly moved away. Everyone's gaze landed on the heaven's path in front of them. Boom! At that moment, Ling Zhao saw two figures flying out from the dazzling lightning. The two figures were extremely fast, as though they weren't afraid of the lightning at all. They were actually in an intense battle. Every strike was earth-shattering, causing the surrounding lightning to become even more violent. Old man Murong, are you crazy? Aren't you afraid that the heavenly tribulation will descend and strike you to death here? An incomparably cold voice rang out, carrying with it an irrepressible anger. It was a young man wearing a black robe and holding a black ancient sword. He had a head of long purple hair and an extremely handsome face. He looked extremely evil and his face was filled with coldness. Opposite him was an old man with white hair and beard. He was dressed in hemp clothes and looked kind and sage-like. However, at this moment, his eyes were filled with coldness. His attacks were swift and fierce, and every move was filled with killing intent. Chong Lu. You killed my grandson and stole his Tai scripture. Do you really think I don't know about it? Today, I'm going to bury you with him. The old man roared. His hair and beard stood on end, and his whole body exuded a terrible killing intent. Huge palm prints were like mountains and seas, heading towards Chong Lu Chong Lu Chong Lu. That old man Murong Lu Chong. Ling Zhao's Chong Lu Chong. The auras of these two people were indeed very powerful, causing Ling Zhao to feel a strong sense of threat. Only the great Zhou old ancestor, Murong Jin, could fight with the devil sect leader to such an extent. Madman! You're a madman. I didn't kill your grandson. That was just an illusion in the heavenly road. Old man Murong, do you really think I'm afraid of you? A trace of cold killing intent emerged in Demon Lord's eyes. Boom! The heavy sword in his hand was incomparably sharp, but it was also extremely fast. It slashed down towards Murong Jin from the sky like a black thunderbolt, containing an incomparably domineering sword aura. Murong Lu's eyes were red with killing intent. He didn't dodge. Instead, He met the attack with his palms. His palms were fierce and domineering. They slammed onto the blade of the sword. It was as if a thunderbolt had exploded in the void. The two of them retreated at the same time. Rumble. After the two of them separated, they charged at each other at an even faster speed. The battle was extremely intense. At that moment, although the crowd's attention was attracted by Chong Lu and Murong Lu, more importantly, everyone's eyes were on the heavenly road. The heavenly road was shining brighter and brighter. It was as if a rainbow bridge had appeared at the peak of Tian Shan Mountain. Everyone became extremely excited. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. The opening of the heavenly road is untraceable. It opens and closes. It seems that we've caught up with the right timing. Ling Xiao, aren't you going to enter the heavenly road to take a look? All-Seer smiled at Ling Xiao. Of course. Ling Xiao stared at the heavenly road in the void. He felt that the heavenly road was gradually solidifying because it had absorbed the surrounding lightning energy. It was as if a passage had appeared between two spaces, and the heavenly road was that passage. Boom! The heavenly road was resplendent to the extreme, and the rainbow bridge seemed to have condensed into a substance. Everyone could not help but tremble, and as if they had been injected with chicken blood, they directly soared into the sky and flew towards the heavenly road. The heavenly road has opened. Everyone, charge! Kill! Many of the experts at the peak of Tian Shan Mountain had bloodshot eyes. They all rushed towards the heavenly road. As for Chong Lu and Murong Jin, who were in the middle of a fierce battle, their eyes suddenly trembled. At the same time, they turned into two streams of light and directly swept into the heavenly road, completely disappearing from sight. All-Seer's eyes were also filled with eagerness. He said to Ling Xiao, "Let's go and take a look at the heavenly road. You go in first. I want to wait a little longer." Ling Xiao said, shaking his head. Wait a little longer? What are you waiting for? If you're late, the fortune and opportunity in the heavenly road will fall into someone else's hands. All-Seer asked curiously. However, Ling Xiao only shook his head and didn't explain anything to him. Seeing that he couldn't persuade Ling Xiao, he couldn't help but shake his head. He also turned around and rushed into the heavenly road. Take care of yourself. All-Seer left behind a sentence and disappeared completely. Why is All-Seer so good to me? Could it be because of the pendant? Ling Xiao was slightly puzzled, but he quickly put it aside. He didn't enter the heavenly road because Ling Xiao had encountered such a vast amount of lightning. He wanted to try and cultivate with the power of lightning. The heavenly punishment secret skill is a lightning-attributed cultivation method. Let's see if I can absorb the power of lightning. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He immediately sat down on the peak of Tian Shan Mountain and tried to use the heavenly punishment secret skill to absorb the vast power of lightning around him. However, Ling Xiao was soon disappointed. The heavenly punishment secret skill seemed to have lost its effect. There was no way to absorb the power of lightning here. Could it be that I can only use the cultivation method of this world to cultivate? Ling Xiao smiled bitterly in his heart. In the end, he decided to try using the Tai scripture. Although Ling Xiao only cultivated the first volume of the Tai scripture, it contained a trace of the mystery of absorbing the energy of heaven and earth. Ling Xiao slowly used the Tai scripture and then breathed in, trying to absorb the power of lightning around him. Rumble. Chapter 2435. The Tai scripture was a cultivation method created by the Tai Patriarch. It was neutral and peaceful. It could open the secrets of the human body, condense congenital true qi, strengthen the body, and reach a mysterious realm. There was no heaven and earth spiritual qi in this world, so the Tai Patriarch took a different approach. He created the Tai scripture and left behind the martial arts inheritance. He even made the whole world worship him as the Patriarch. Ling Xiao became more and more curious about the Tai Patriarch. Why couldn't such a person break the shackles of this world, leave the trial world, and obtain the inheritance of the heavenly prison great emperor? What secrets were hidden in this world? Ling Xiao's heart trembled slightly, but soon his whole body was enveloped by endless thunderbolts. Rumble. The vast thunderbolt power entered Ling Xiao's body and was refined by the Tai scripture. It then turned into the purest congenital true qi, making Ling Xiao's cultivation deeper and deeper. Although Ling Xiao couldn't use the divine punishment secret skill, he had practiced many thunder attribute cultivation methods in the mortal world. At this moment, he verified them with the Tai scripture, and the absorption of the thunderbolt power became faster and faster. However, to Ling Xiao's regret, most of the vast thunderbolt power was swallowed and absorbed by the heavenly road. In the end, Ling Xiao only got a small part of it. But even if it was only a small part, it made his cultivation advance by leaps and bounds. The congenital true qi in his body increased by several times and became more vigorous. I'm not far from the peak of the Grandmaster realm. The heavenly road? I'll take a look and see what's in it. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. At this moment, the thunderbolts around him seemed to have completely disappeared. The heavenly road in front of him was dazzling, like a rainbow bridge, hanging on the peak of the heavenly mountain, leading to an unknown time and space. Whoosh! Ling Xiao leaped up and instantly swept into the heavenly road. In front of him was an incomparably bright light. Ling Xiao could feel a mysterious change in time and space, which made him even more certain that the heavenly road led to a completely different space. When Ling Xiao opened his eyes, he saw that he had arrived in a strange space. It was gray all around. A winding and ethereal ancient road led into the distance. In the distance, there were bright stars that seemed to be within reach, shining with eternal light. The heavenly road looked like an ancient starry sky road, leading to an unknown place. Is this heaven's road? Ling Xiao frowned. His feet moved, and the ancient road under his feet rippled like water. The ancient road glowed faintly, and the stars seemed to be lit up. The world was ethereal and lonely. Ling Xiao could no longer see anyone. It was as if he was the only one left. This is an illusion. Or is it the real heavenly road? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He was only a mortal now. Although he was in the Grandmaster realm, he had not opened his third eye or condensed his primordial spirit. Naturally, he could not see through everything in front of him. He slowly walked forward. Roar! Ling Xiao moved and immediately saw a bright star flying towards him. Then, a huge tiger appeared, exuding a ferocious aura. Its eyes were filled with bloodlust and killing intent. With a roar, it pounced towards Ling Xiao. It was like an ancient ferocious beast. That kind of ferocious aura made people's hair stand on end. Ling Xiao's expression was incomparably calm. It was as if he did not see the huge tiger at all. His footsteps were still firm as he walked forward step by step. The ferocious tiger pounced on Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao felt the ferocious aura, as if he would be buried in the tiger's belly in the next moment. However, Ling Xiao took a step forward, and the ferocious tiger quickly disappeared. The ferocious tiger seemed to be just the beginning. As Ling Xiao walked forward, various powerful ferocious beasts appeared in the bright stars. There was a three-legged golden crow that could burn the heavens and destroy the earth, a huge divine dragon that could traverse the 9 heavens, a qilin that was covered in lightning, a heavenly horse that stepped on the starry sky. Those powerful creatures were incomparably real, especially the ferocious aura and killing intent. It made Ling Xiao feel a chill all over his body, and he fell into a life-threatening situation. Ling Xiao could feel that even a Grandmaster would be scared witless in the face of such terrifying creatures. Such an illusion, could it be to train one's mind? That's not right. These powerful beings contain the essence of the martial Tao. At first, Ling Xiao was still a little doubtful. He thought that this was an illusion in heaven's path to train everyone's mind. However, he soon realized that something was wrong. Ling Xiao saw that the powerful creatures actually contained the charm of martial arts and all kinds of mysterious cultivation methods. The ferocious tiger's tyranny, the three-legged golden crow's flames, the divine dragon's control of wind and thunder, and the heavenly horse's extreme speed. Looking at those powerful creatures, Ling Xiao felt that in addition to the terrifying aura and soul-stirring ferociousness, those powerful creatures were actually demonstrating all kinds of powerful divine skills in front of Ling Xiao. Using the charm of these powerful creatures to comprehend heaven and earth, open one's own divine treasures, and thus possess great power. This is actually a cultivation path that is completely different from the martial arts. Ling Xiao's heart trembled, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He realized that heaven's path was far beyond his imagination. It was not simple at all. If an ordinary person came here, they would probably be scared out of their wits and die an unnatural death after seeing those powerful creatures. Those with strong wills, such as those grandmaster experts, might be able to withstand the powerful pressure and aura with their strong willpower, thus tempering their mind and using heaven's path to cleanse their body and mind. Only those with extraordinary talent would be able to see the martial Tao's charm hidden within. They could even see the various powerful martial arts that evolved within. Ling Xiao stared at those powerful creatures without blinking, engraving the charm of martial arts they displayed in his heart, and firmly memorizing the path of their cultivation. Rumble. 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 It was as if there were bolts of lightning exploding in Ling Xiao's body. His flesh and blood were also rumbling, and he began to cultivate along with the divine skills displayed by those powerful creatures. Roar! Ling Xiao let out the roar of a ferocious tiger. The innate true qi around him surged, and his entire person seemed to have transformed into a ferocious tiger, roaring at heaven and earth. Roar! The dragon's roar shook the void. The innate true qi behind Ling Xiao gathered and formed the shadow of a divine dragon, evolving the essence of a divine dragon. Chapter 2436. This was an unimaginably great fortune. Although Ling Xiao had a mortal body, after being branded with so many martial Tao charms, his entire body seemed to have been reborn, and his aura became stronger and stronger. Rumble. Blood qi surged like a great river in Ling Xiao's body. His bones vibrated like divine gold, and his meridians were tough like dragons and tigers roaring. The Xiantian true qi in his body was incomparably vast, as if it had condensed into a divine sea, vast and boundless. This kind of rebirth gave Ling Xiao a new feeling of power, a feeling of being able to sweep through everything, a feeling of omnipotence. Ling Xiao's steps were very firm. He didn't know how long he had walked on the heavenly road, but when the surrounding stars gradually dimmed, the illusions all disappeared. The world was silent, and Ling Xiao was still the only one left on the heavenly road. However, an ancient mountain peak appeared in front of Ling Xiao. That mountain peak floated above the ancient starry sky path, blocking Ling Xiao's path. The surrounding stars were flickering, making this mountain peak look very mysterious. On the mountain peak, there were some buildings. Although they were a little dilapidated, but from far away, one could feel that these buildings were exuding a kind of charm. Where is this place? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't stop, continuing to walk forward. At the foot of the mountain, there were a few broken rocks. These rocks were left behind by a broken stone tablet, and there were a few words on it. Tai. Ling Xiao recognized two of the words, but the other words were completely obliterated. However, the word Tai made Ling Xiao's heart skip a beat. Could this be the true mountain gate of Tai sect in ancient times? Ling Xiao gently touched the broken stone tablet. It was cold to the touch, and there was an indescribable aura of life and death, as if it had experienced endless years, vicissitudes and ancient. Ling Xiao walked up the mountain peak. The mountain peak was bare, without any plants, but there were a few withered tree trunks still stuck in the hard mountain rocks, representing the traces of life in the past. Walking up from the foot of the mountain, one could see many dilapidated buildings and some weapons that had long been turned into scrap metal. From the style of the buildings and the weapons, one could tell that this place was once glorious and prosperous a long time ago. But now, it seemed that there were only dilapidated walls left. It was as if it had been forgotten and completely sealed on the heaven's path. Walking from the foot of the mountain to the top, Ling Xiao did not find anything useful along the way. Even the incomparably powerful divine weapons in the past had now turned into scrap metal and dust. At the top of the mountain, a dilapidated stone palace attracted Ling Xiao's attention. 1/3 of the stone palace had already collapsed. Even half of the roof had disappeared. Only 3 walls were left. The place where the door was at the front seemed to have been smashed by a punch. A large circular hole had appeared. Ling Xiao walked towards the stone hall. This is Tai. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed, and he was instantly attracted by a statue in front of him. That statue was of an old man with white hair and beard. He looked like a celestial being, ethereal and otherworldly. His eyes were old and deep as he looked into the distance. There was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. Ling Xiao felt that the old man seemed to have come alive and was looking at him. And this old man was exactly the same as the old man on the jade pendant that Nan Nan had given him. Inside the stone hall, there were broken stones and rotten tables. It looked very dilapidated, but the Tai statue was as clean as new, as if someone came to clean it every day. Buzz! The pendant on Ling Xiao's neck began to tremble slightly, as if it had sensed something. Boom! Ling Xiao felt that the Tai statue in front of him seemed to move. In an instant, its entire body bloomed with a bright light. The Tai statue's eyes shot out 2 beams of light, slowly spreading out in front of Ling Xiao. The bright golden light was incomparably dazzling, and golden words floated in the void, looking mysterious and unfathomable, containing the charm of the Tao and ancient intent. It was actually a mysterious scripture. Tai scripture. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He realized that the scripture that appeared on the Tai statue was actually the Tai scripture. However, there was not only the first volume, but the complete Tai scripture. A sound like a great bell rang out. After the Tai scripture appeared, the void trembled slightly, and ripples appeared, as if a mysterious scene had appeared in the void. Could this pendant be the key to opening the Tai statue? Ling Xiao guessed in his heart, but his attention was quickly attracted by the Tai scripture. Then, all of his attention was placed on the Tai scripture, and he began to silently memorize it. Whoosh! 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 At the same time, the appearance of the Tai scripture seemed to have alarmed the others in Heaven's Road. Only the sound of breaking air could be heard, and in an instant, several figures rushed towards the stone hall from the foot of the mountain, as if they were very familiar with this place. Tai scripture. The real Tai scripture is here. A surprised voice rang out. It was a young man in a black robe, with a head of demonic purple hair. It was the leader of the demon sect, Chong Lu. Other than Chong Lu, there was also the great ancestor of the great Zhou dynasty, Murong Jin, All-Seer, and Master Wushuang. The real Tai scripture. Boy, you're courting death. Murong Jin's eyes revealed an extremely excited expression, but when he glanced at Ling Xiao, his eyes flashed with killing intent, and he directly slammed his palm towards Ling Xiao. Boom! Murong Jin's palm print was incomparably powerful, and it was like a howling wind, falling towards Ling Xiao's head, as if it wanted to kill him directly. Whoosh! However, Ling Xiao did not look back. With a flash of golden light, he instantly disappeared from where he was and appeared directly above the stone hall. Murong Jin's palm print directly slammed towards the Tai statue, but Murong Jin seemed to be extremely afraid of the Tai statue, and he actually forcibly withdrew his palm, and the palm winds suddenly disappeared in the void. However, after Ling Xiao's figure disappeared, the Tai scripture in the void also instantly disappeared. Murong Jin. Are you courting death? Ling Xiao's eyes were originally closed, but at this moment, he suddenly opened them, and 2 rays of golden light shot out like lightning, staring at Murong Jin as he spoke indifferently. Traversing golden light? You're from the Tai sect. You're the Ling Xiao who killed my subordinates. Chong Lu's eyes flashed, and in an instant, his gaze became cold as he stared at Ling Xiao. Chapter 2437. I'm Ling Xiao. You're Chong Lu. Since you dared to send people to the Greater One sect to cause trouble, you'll pay with your life today. Ling Xiao said indifferently, his expression incomparably calm. Even though the three martial grandmasters in front of him could be said to be the strongest in this world, there was still no trace of fear in Ling Xiao's eyes. Ha ha ha! What shameless boasting! You killed the people of my holy church. Today, I'll make you beg for death. Chong Lu laughed loudly, his eyes full of mockery. He was one of the three martial grandmasters, a prominent figure in the martial arts world, and also one of the three strongest people in this world. Now that Ling Xiao said he would pay with his life, he felt as if he had heard the best joke in his life. Brat, I don't care who you are. Hand over the Greater One scripture, or today will be the day you die. Murong Jin also stared coldly at Ling Xiao and said. The two martial grandmasters stared at Ling Xiao, the aura exuding from their bodies was incomparably terrifying. It was like a mysterious domain, sealing off the entire area. Even if it were an ordinary martial grandmaster, facing Chong Lu and Murong Jin at the same time, they would probably lose all will to fight. At that moment, young Master Wushuang's eyes suddenly flashed, and he smiled indifferently. Martial grandmasters, I'm afraid you don't know yet. Young Master Ling Xiao has the Greater One Divine statue in his hands. I'm afraid it's his Greater One Divine statue that can open the Greater One scripture. As long as you can obtain his Greater One Divine statue, you'll naturally be able to obtain the complete Greater One scripture. Greater One Divine statue. After hearing young Master Wushuang's words, Murong Jin and Chong Lu's eyes couldn't help but sparkle. They looked at Ling Xiao with even more killing intent. They had naturally heard of the legend of the Greater One Divine statue. It was said that the holder of the Greater One Divine statue had the greatest hope of stepping onto the heavenly road and entering the eternal realm of the gods. Regardless of whether the legend was true or not, they couldn't let the Greater One Divine statue go. Rumble. Chong Lu and Murong Jin unexpectedly attacked at the same time. Although the two of them were both great grandmasters, the reason they attacked Ling Xiao was not because they were afraid of Ling Xiao, but because they did not want the other party to obtain the Greater One scripture on Ling Xiao. However, when the two great grandmasters attacked, it was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. They were mighty and unhindered between heaven and earth. That powerful aura seemed to be able to break apart this part of the world. I'm afraid this kid isn't a match for the two of them. Forget it, forget it. I still have to trouble these old bones of mine to take action. All-Seer shook his head and laughed bitterly as he prepared to save Ling Xiao. However, All-Seer's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Boom! Facing Chong Lu and Murong Jin's simultaneous attacks, Ling Xiao didn't choose to dodge. Instead, he met them with a punch. The golden fist imprint exploded in the void. It seemed to contain an indescribable majesty and ancient power as it pressed down on the two of them. If it had been when they had just entered Celestial Mountain, Ling Xiao might not have been a match for any one of them, let alone Chong Lu and Murong Jin joining forces. However, after absorbing the power of the lightning tribulation and going through a rebirth in the heavenly road, Ling Xiao's strength had skyrocketed. Even he didn't know how strong he was now. Bang! Ling Xiao's fist collided with Murong Jin's. The void exploded, and a wave of air directly exploded. Ling Xiao's body only shook slightly, but Murong Jin was sent flying by his punch. At that moment, Chong Lu also came over with the ancient sword in his hand. The sword light was incomparably sharp, and in Chong Lu's hand, it was extremely fast. It seemed to split into millions of sword lights in an instant, slashing down on Ling Xiao from all directions. Break! Ling Xiao's eyes were incomparably sharp. Facing the sword lights that filled the sky, he directly punched out. At the same time, the Tai mixed yuan qi around him exploded, as if chaotic light had exploded around him. More than half of the sword lights that filled the sky were directly smashed into powder by Ling Xiao's punch. Even if a few sword lights fell, they couldn't break through the Tai mixed yuan qi's defense at all. The crisp sound of metal clashing rang out. Whoosh! Ling Xiao was like a ray of golden light. In an instant, he directly pierced through the layers of sword lights and appeared in front of Chong Lu. His finger was like a sword, piercing through the air towards Chong Lu's forehead. What? Chong Lu's whole body trembled, and he didn't even think about it, he wanted to retreat. However, the sword finger was like a tarsal bone, and its speed was extremely fast. Chong Lu couldn't dodge it, and could only slap out with his palm, trying to block Ling Xiao's sword. Pfft! The Xiantian true qi on his palm was quickly broken by the sword light. His palm was directly pierced by the sword qi, and a bloody hole appeared. He couldn't help but stagger back in pain. Who are you? Murong Jin was shocked and angry. His eyes were filled with disbelief. In his opinion, even if Ling Xiao had the cultivation of a grandmaster, when he and Chong Lu attacked at the same time, he would only be able to withstand a few moves before being defeated quickly. He never thought that Ling Xiao would be able to take on two great grandmasters by himself and easily suppress them. Is this the so-called great grandmaster? You're just a so-so. Ling Xiao said faintly, with a trace of disappointment in his eyes. Originally, he thought that the so-called great grandmaster's strength should be far beyond that of a grandmaster. Every move of theirs should contain the vast power of heaven and earth. Only then could they be called great grandmasters. However, after exchanging blows, he discovered that although Murong Jin and Chong Lu were very strong, far stronger than Venerable Heian and the others, they were still different from the great grandmasters he imagined. They were just slightly stronger than ordinary grandmasters. Just a so-so. Ling Xiao, although I don't know how your strength suddenly became so strong, a great grandmaster cannot be humiliated. Murong Jin, old man, don't hold back. Kill him. A trace of cold killing intent appeared in Chong Lu's eyes. Ling Xiao's powerful combat strength had finally stimulated the killing intent and arrogance in his heart. He no longer underestimated his opponent and began to fight with all his strength. Rumble. A terrifying aura seemed to rise around Chong Lu's body. The vast Xiantian qi seemed to be boiling, forming a mysterious state of resonance with the surrounding void. He leaped into the sky, and the ancient black sword in his palm seemed to come alive. In an instant, it hummed and turned into a huge sword aura, cutting through the sky towards Ling Xiao. Murong Jin also gritted his teeth, and the dark green light around his body exploded. In an instant, the void trembled, as if a strong wind had swept through the world. Murong Jin's entire body became one with the strong wind, spinning at an extremely fast speed, enveloping Ling Xiao. Interesting. I can actually touch the power of heaven and earth. Is this the true strength of a great grandmaster? Ling Xiao's eyes lit up as he muttered to himself. Rumble. Step by step, he walked towards Chong Lu and Murong Jin. The golden light around his body was dazzling, and his vast qi and blood seemed to be boiling, turning into a golden smoke signal that soared into the sky. Chapter 2438. Chong Lu and Murong Jin were both great grandmasters. Their cultivation had reached the peak of the great grandmaster realm. Almost all the divine treasures in their bodies had been opened. Their physical bodies were incomparably powerful. They could affect the world with a raise of their hands and control the vast power of heaven and earth. This was the effect of one's own small world affecting the outside world. It could cause changes in the weather, control wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, and evolve all kinds of mysterious magical powers. When one's cultivation reached this level, one could already be called a god. A god could rule the world. Whether it was Chong Lu's domain of swords or Murong Jin's astral wind domain, they were all such magical powers. They were powerful enough to sweep across the great grandmaster realm. Therefore, Chong Lu, Murong Jin, and All-Seer could be called the three great grandmasters. This kind of magical power was enough to kill an ordinary great grandmaster. However, to Ling Xiao, it was just a joke. Ling Xiao's physical body was branded with the martial arts of those powerful creatures. He had been reborn and was extremely powerful. No matter how strong his opponent was, he could break through it with brute force. This was how brute force could break all laws. Boom! Ling Xiao punched out. Golden qi and blood rose, turning into an indestructible fist. In an instant, it collided with Chong Lu. The sword light that filled the sky was annihilated. The sword light seemed to be endless. When it slashed on Ling Xiao's body, it was as if it had slashed on metal, creating sparks. "Get lost!" Ling Xiao coldly shouted. His palm pierced through the heavy sword light and suddenly slapped Chong Lu's face, directly sending him flying. Crack! Facing Murong Jin, Ling Xiao didn't even look at him. He struck out with his palm. A blazing golden light rose from his palm. In an instant, a golden dragon came across the sky and broke the powerful astral wind domain. Then, with a force that could sweep away thousands of soldiers, it directly swept him away. Ling Xiao's qi and blood rose as if it was about to burn. His aura became stronger and stronger. His eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of crazy killing intent. At the same time, he stared at All-Seer and young Master Wushuang. Not good. All-Seer and young Master Wushuang's hearts trembled. They felt as if they were being stared at by a god. Suddenly, they felt a chill all over their bodies. Those who dare to provoke Tai will be killed without mercy. Ling Xiao's voice was incomparably cold. A huge fist actually enveloped All-Seer and young Master Wushuang. At this moment, Ling Xiao seemed to have entered an extremely strange state. He felt like the entire world was under his control, giving him the power to destroy the world with a single move. Whether it was Chong Lu, Murong Jin, Master Peerless, or All-Seer, they had all become the lowliest creatures in his heart. They had to be eliminated. Rumble. The golden fist swept across the sky like a god descending to the world. It erupted with a monstrous energy fluctuation that made All-Seer and young noble Wushuang unable to resist. They were directly sent flying. Kill! 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 Ling Xiao's eyes were blood red, and his entire body was filled with killing intent. His aura was extremely powerful. Not good. He's crazy. He's being controlled by the Supreme Divine Statue. We're not his match at all. Hurry up and leave. All-Seer's eyes were filled with a solemn expression as he exclaimed to everyone. He's being controlled by the Supreme Divine Statue. Chong Lu and Murong Jin both trembled as if they had thought of a certain legend. They couldn't help but tremble all over and wanted to leave without thinking. The Supreme Divine Statue in Heaven's path was incomparably evil. Legend had it that if one was controlled by the Supreme Divine Statue, they would become a puppet that only knew how to kill. They would kill everyone who entered Heaven's path. What's going on? Who is that person? He actually suppressed the 3 great grandmasters and young Master Wushuang by himself? Someone exclaimed in surprise. At this moment, more and more people walked out of the illusion. However, when they saw the great battle on the mountain peak, their eyes were filled with disbelief. The 3 great grandmasters were the 3 most powerful people in the world. They were the most promising existences to break through the void. Now, they were actually suppressed by someone. Moreover, they were no match for him at all. They were all sent flying while vomiting blood. Could he be a demon god on Heaven's path? Someone said with a trembling voice. His eyes were filled with incomparable fear. Whoosh! At this moment, Ling Xiao's gaze also fell on the crowd. His eyes revealed an incomparably cold killing intent as he leaped forward in an instant. Rumble! The golden qi and blood around his body began to burn, turning into golden flames. He was bathed in the flames of the zither as he attacked. Every move of his contained a destructive power that caused the surrounding sky to tremble and shake violently. This power is definitely not the power of a mortal. Hurry up and leave this place. All-Seer also became incomparably anxious. His eyes were filled with fear. Boom! Boom! Chong Lu and Murong Jin each suffered another punch from Ling Xiao. They couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood and were sent flying. After hearing All-Seer's words, everyone trembled. Their eyes were filled with fear as they quickly fled into the distance. The blood around Ling Xiao's body boiled to the extreme. The flames burned fiercely, making him look like a terrifying demon god as he chased after the crowd. However, suddenly, Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a look of struggle. His entire body stopped in the void. Want to control me? Scram! Ling Xiao roared in his heart. The suppressed rationality began to slowly recover. His eyes also revealed a clear look. The golden flames around his body dissipated, and the violent power also integrated into his body and completely disappeared. At this moment, whether it was the three great masters, young Master Peerless, or the other great masters, they all took the opportunity to escape. They didn't have the time to check on Ling Xiao's current state. Whoosh! Ling Xiao slowly descended from the void. His eyes were filled with incomparably cold killing intent. However, the bloodlust and madness had disappeared, leaving only pure killing intent and anger. Ling Xiao didn't expect that when he was fighting with Chong Lu and Murong Jin, his mind would be controlled by a mysterious power. He almost turned into a monster that only knew how to kill. If he hadn't done his best to struggle and break free from that control, he was afraid that he would have slaughtered Chong Lu, Murong Jin, Al-Seer, and young Master Peerless. In that state, no one was a match for him. Tai, are you controlling me? Ling Xiao returned to the stone hall and stared coldly at the Tai statue in front of him. However, the Tai statue didn't answer him. Boom! Chapter 2439. But just as Ling Xiao's fist was about to touch the Greater One statue, the Greater One statue suddenly emitted a resplendent light. It was sparkling and dazzling, holy and mysterious, completely blocking Ling Xiao's fist. Boom! 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 Ling Xiao threw out over 100 punches, each of them exploding with extremely terrifying energy fluctuations, but they did not harm the Greater One statue in the slightest. They were all blocked by that mysterious light. Ling Xiao's expression changed, and his eyes were filled with sharpness. He stared at the Greater One statue and muttered to himself, Greater One, what are you trying to do? Leaving behind the martial arts legacy, creating the path of cultivation, and even the heavenly road are related to you. What are you planning? I believe that you are not dead yet. Ling Xiao's voice was incomparably calm, but it contained a chill that made one's heart tremble. After saying this to the Greater One statue, he turned and left the stone hall. I want to see where this heavenly road leads to. Ling Xiao said indifferently, his gaze falling on the winding and mysterious starry sky ancient road in the distance. This mountain peak seemed to be just a foothold on the heavenly road, and the winding heavenly road ahead was surrounded by dazzling stars. Although there were specks of starlight illuminating the darkness, it still seemed lonely and desolate. Ling Xiao walked along the heavenly road. His pace was not fast, but it was firm and steady, full of power. The heavenly road was like a path of trial, full of dangers, life and death tests, and even tests and choices for one's heart. Ling Xiao left the mountain peak and went on his way alone. He saw the stars change, and in an instant, an ancient world was opened up, enveloping him within. Countless powerful creatures appeared, and a bloody battle broke out. He went on a crusade in that world, fighting bloody battles in all directions, and in the end, he broke through everything, only to discover that it was all an illusion. He saw the vicissitudes of life. Space and time were eternal and immortal. However, all living beings would appear in time and space before being completely erased. He saw his father Ling Zhen and mother Long Hanyan. He also saw Jin Sei and Xue Wei. He saw the old goat, Taoist Wu Yang, and Zhao Ritian. He saw many familiar people. Some died in front of him, some became unfamiliar, and wanted to kill him with ferocious eyes. Even Xue Wei and Jin Sei held long swords and stabbed into his chest. Although he knew that these were all illusions, many times, Ling Xiao would cry and tremble all over, and even feel that he had been abandoned by this world. Just like this, Ling Xiao did not know how long he walked on the heavenly road. His body became thinner, but was as straight as a sword. His footsteps were slow, but still firm. His eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life, but contained an indescribable radiance. Finally, to the end of the heavenly road. To be precise, this heavenly road seemed to have been cut off by someone, and it came to an abrupt end. A chaotic void appeared in front of Ling Xiao. It was dense with fog, and no one knew what was in front of him. The heavenly road was cut off in front of the chaotic void, and there was no path ahead. Taking a step forward, perhaps there would be endless light in front of him, but it could also be a bottomless abyss. What is in front of me? Ling Xiao muttered to himself, his eyes calm and indifferent. He could feel that the chaotic void in front of him contained a shocking spatial fluctuation, as if he would enter another space-time if he took a step forward. At the same time, Ling Xiao's heart also surged with an incomparable sense of urgency, wanting him to take that final step and enter the chaotic void in front of him. Come. Come quickly. As long as you take a step, you can leave this world. There seemed to be a mysterious voice in front of him, wanting Ling Xiao to take that final step. At this moment, the Xiantian true qi in Ling Xiao's body was surging and swimming in his body. It completely opened up all the divine treasures in his meridians and acupoints. An incomparably vigorous and vast energy gushed out. Ling Xiao could feel that he was getting stronger with every passing moment. It was as if he once again felt like he could control the world and was omnipotent. According to the martial path left behind by Tai, I should have reached the limit of the master stage by now, right? The final step of breaking through the void should be very difficult. Ling Xiao whispered to himself. It was as if he was standing in front of a bottomless abyss, and there was an endless temptation in front of him, tempting him to take that final step, but Ling Xiao stopped. Buzz! The chaotic void in front of him was ethereal, and an ancient gate slowly appeared. Divine light surged, propitious vapor rose, and palaces and pavilions stood in great numbers. It vaguely seemed like a mythical world. If it were an ordinary person, after walking on the heavens path for so long, they would probably be unable to resist taking that final step and entering the legendary god realm to enjoy an endless lifespan. However, Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a hint of mockery as he said, "Even now, you're still trying to trick me with an illusion? Tai, if I'm not wrong, all of this should be your doing, right?" However, after he finished speaking, the chaotic void in front of him was still dazzling, but there was no response. "Since you're not willing to give yourself up, I'll leave," Ling Xiao said indifferently, then turned around without hesitation, wanting to leave. Interesting, very interesting. Suddenly, an old and deep voice came from behind Ling Xiao, as if it came from ancient times, containing endless vicissitudes of life. Ling Xiao turned around and saw the chaotic mist in front of him. Resplendent light flickered, and an old man with white hair and a beard appeared. The old man's face was clear, and he looked like an immortal. In particular, his eyes seemed to contain the birth and death of an endless world, making people sink into them forever. "Tai, it really is you," Ling Xiao said indifferently. The old man in front of him was exactly the same as the supreme statue. However, his condition was rather strange. He seemed like a spiritual body, but he also exuded a boundless vitality. However, his figure was somewhat illusory, giving off an extremely unreal feeling. However, his body contained an indescribable lethargy, as if his entire body was shrouded in the aura of death, with only a single breath of life hanging on to his life. He was like a candle flame in the wind, about to be completely extinguished at any moment. "Ling Xiao, you're the first person to discover me in countless years, and of course, you'll also be the last." Tai's gaze was extremely calm as he smiled at Ling Xiao. Chapter 2440. Tai, I was curious about how you managed to live for billions of years without dying, but now that I've seen you, I understand. Over the countless years, so many people who wanted to obtain the inheritance of the heavenly prison great emperor must have died in your hands, and their life source must have been devoured by you, right? Ling Xiao looked at Tai curiously. You are very smart. However, it's not just those people. There are many people with extraordinary talents in this world. They are my nourishment, the hope that keeps me alive. I've waited for billions of years, but after seeing you, I have a premonition that as long as you and I become one, we can break through this world, pass this trial, and obtain all the inheritance of the heavenly prison great emperor. Tai smiled and admitted it directly. That's really a big deal. Tai, this is a forgotten world. When you came to this world, you must have been in despair. However, you have unparalleled talent. Not only did you leave the martial inheritance for this world, but you also created the path of cultivation for this world. You also secretly set up the heavenly path and the legend of the so-called God realm. It's funny that those people thought the heavenly path was a passage to the God realm, but they didn't know that they became your nourishment in the end. Ling Xiao said with some surprise. In fact, Ling Xiao had been thinking about this question. Since Tai was the first person to come to this trial world, as the founder of the Tai Celestial Heavens, the legendary Supreme Grand Emperor, who left behind the martial inheritance and the path of cultivation, was he really willing to die of old age in such a world? Through Ling Xiao's observation, from Tai sect to Heaven Mountain, from the peak of Heaven Mountain to the heavenly path, and even in the stone hall, Ling Xiao was controlled by that strange power. Ling Xiao gradually realized that there was an invisible hand behind all of this, controlling it all. Perhaps the natives of this world didn't know Tai's origin or purpose, but Ling Xiao could see it at a glance. The mastermind behind this was probably Tai. Otherwise, why would Tai be the only one who became a saint and became an ancestor of the heavenly prison great emperor, controlling the changes in this world? According to Ling Xiao's guess, Tai's true cultivation should be at the fourth stage of the Sacred King Realm, which was the limit of the Sacred King Realm, the Celestial Venerable Realm. A Saint King Realm Master only had a lifespan of 10 million years, and without special means, it was impossible to live for so long. Tai had treated the people who came to this trial world as his nourishment, his life source. They had probably all died at his hands. Ling Xiao, you're wrong. It is their fortune to be able to become one with me, to have their lives become mine. Otherwise, in the end, they could only die of old age in this world with no way of leaving. Ling Xiao, you have no idea how terrifying this world is. This is a forgotten and cursed world. How can a mortal break out of this world and leave this place? Tai sighed softly. Despair, anger, bitterness, and other emotions surged in his eyes, but they all returned to calmness in the end. You created the path of martial arts. Even if you don't rely on the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, you can still reach the void-breaking realm by opening your own divine treasure. Shattering the void involves the law of space. Is it not enough to break the barrier of this world? Ling Xiao furrowed his brow and asked. Although he and Tai were enemies, they were talking like old friends. He wanted to ask about the doubts in his heart, and Tai seemed to need to talk, patiently explaining everything. Void-breaking realm? Ha ha ha. I used to think that I could break through the barrier of this world and leave this damned world. But do you know? This world is filled with layers of space-time, as if it's endless. It's like a prison. There's no way to escape. Tai laughed bitterly. His voice was filled with unimaginable exhaustion. Ling Xiao was also somewhat dejected. He could understand Tai's state of mind in the past. After experiencing the initial despair, Tai created the path of martial arts and groped his way through cultivation alone. He finally reached the void-breaking realm with great difficulty. He thought that he could leave this world, but he discovered that an even larger prison had appeared. It was like a huge trap, trapping him there. Just how desperate was that? I'm thinking that after you shatter the void, you probably won't be able to return to this world, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to create the heavenly path. You could have completely dominated this world and then hunted down those new challengers. Ling Xiao slowly said. You're right. After I shatter the void, I won't be able to return to this world. However, anyone who shatters the void will come to my side and fuse with me in the end. This heaven's path itself is a severed path. I don't know who severed the path from here to the outside world. I just used some tricks to connect the space at the end of the heaven's path with the space I'm in. Tai smiled. He did not hide anything, telling Ling Xiao everything. So you're saying that as long as I take another step, I'll enter the space you're in? Ling Xiao asked. That's right. Ling Xiao, are you interested in taking a look? As long as you can defeat me, I'm willing to offer up all of my life origin. If you lose, we'll become one. How about it? Tai said with a smile. Is this a gamble? That's right. It's a gamble. What we're betting on is our lives and our hope of leaving this place. I really want to fight you. However, I know that I'm no match for you right now. But you'll come sooner or later, unless you want to die of old age in this world. I believe that you'll choose to fight in the end. Ling Xiao and Tai both fell silent. Ling Xiao also understood why Tai was so honest. This was an open and aboveboard scheme. It was the path Ling Xiao had to choose. Whether Ling Xiao took a step forward or shattered the void, he would have to face the threat of Tai. He would have to choose to fight Tai. If he stayed in this world, he would only have a short lifespan of 100 years. Unless he was willing to turn into a pile of dirt in 100 years and die in obscurity, he would have to choose this battle. Tai left all the choices to Ling Xiao, but it could also be said that he had no choice. Because in the end, he still had to face Tai and complete the final battle. Ling Xiao suddenly thought that the previous challengers had all made the same choice. They'd broken through the void with grief, anger, and despair, and then their lives had been refined to the extreme, beginning the battle of life and death. Chapter 2441. Tai, I will leave this world. Ling Xiao looked at Tai seriously, then turned and left without hesitation. Ling Xiao, I believe you will come back. When you break through the void, when your lifespan is exhausted, when you feel the threat of death, you will definitely come back here and fight me. Tai said loudly behind Ling Xiao. His voice was filled with confidence. However, Ling Xiao didn't turn back. Instead, he went back the way he came. Although Ling Xiao and Tai looked like they were talking face to face, it was like they were separated by two different dimensions. As long as Ling Xiao didn't take the last step, he couldn't see the real Tai. Tai couldn't attack Ling Xiao either, but he wasn't worried. He had enough confidence and patience. Ling Xiao would definitely come back here. Because that was the only way. The only way. I don't believe it. Since you can create the path of martial arts, I can do the same. This world can't stop me. Ling Xiao mumbled to himself as his eyes shone brightly. He went back the way he came, through the lonely starry sky, through the ruins of Tai sect, and then through layers of illusions. Finally, he walked out of the passage of heaven's path and reappeared at the peak of Sky Mountain. Ling Xiao, you actually came out. A surprised voice sounded. At the peak of Sky Mountain, Chong Lu, Nangong Jin, All-Seer, Master Wushuang, and many other experts were gathered. When they saw Ling Xiao appear, their eyes flashed, and they were eager to try. Ling Xiao had the complete Tai scripture, which was known as the world's #1 martial art. Everyone was tempted. Moreover, the Tai scripture seemed to be inextricably linked to heaven's path. If they could get the complete Tai scripture, they might be able to pass through heaven's path and directly enter the eternal God realm. Ling Xiao, hand over the Tai scripture. Ling Xiao, the Tai scripture is an opportunity shared by all of us. You can't take it for yourself. That's right, hand it over quickly. Under Chong Lu and All-Seer's lead, everyone stared at Ling Xiao with blazing eyes. It was as if they were going to attack at any moment, their bodies exuding a monstrous aura. You want the Tai scripture? That's easy. If you can take a punch from me, I'll agree to whatever you want. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Arrogant. Demon Lord and Murong Jin couldn't help but reveal a trace of cold killing intent in their eyes. Although they had suffered a great loss in the battle with Ling Xiao on the heavenly road, they did not think that it was Ling Xiao's true fighting strength. He must have been controlled by the Supreme Divine Statue and obtained the support of the Supreme Divine Statue to possess such abnormal power. Now that they had left the heavenly road, they naturally did not place Ling Xiao in their eyes. You're courting death. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Then, he threw a punch at the crowd. Rumble. Golden chi and blood rose around Ling Xiao. That fist print was grand and majestic, containing an unparalleled wave of power. It actually directly expanded in the void, turning into an earth-shattering fist print in an instant. Like a small mountain, it enveloped the three great grandmasters and everyone else. Not good. Kill. Demon Lord, Murong Jin, All-Seer, and the others couldn't help but tremble. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The murderous aura emitted from that fist print was too terrifying. It was as if it could completely crush all living things. In a daze, everyone actually had the illusion that they were facing a god. Boom. 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 Demon Lord, Murong Jin, and the others all roared as they leaped into the sky. Xiantian true qi surged around their bodies. A powerful force rose up, wanting to block Ling Xiao's punch. Kacha. However, that golden fist print was like a mountain pressing down majestically. It contained an unparalleled divine power, suppressing everyone's attacks into powder. Then, it slammed into their bodies, directly causing them to fall from the void. The peak of the heavenly mountain trembled violently. Everyone was directly suppressed by Ling Xiao's fist. Could it be that he has already broken through the void? Young Master Wushuang's voice was trembling as he pointed at Ling Xiao in disbelief. Suppressing three great grandmasters and many experts with a single punch, no one could even escape the range of this punch. This kind of power was terrifying to the extreme. It was simply unimaginable. Even Demon Lord and Murong Jin felt that Ling Xiao was not this strong, even in the battle on the heavenly road. Impossible. If he had broken through the void, he would have already been rejected by this world. He would have directly broken through the void and entered the realm of the gods. He must still be in the great grandmaster realm. All-Seer said slowly, his gaze incomparably solemn. Great grandmaster realm? Everyone couldn't help but tremble. Since when could a great grandmaster realm have such terrifying power? This was already close to a divine ability. Even the three great grandmasters couldn't do it. Scram! Ling Xiao's gaze was cold. With a sweep of his palm, he directly swept everyone down Heavenly Mountain except for Demon Lord, Murong Jin, All-Seer, and young Master Wushuang. Ling Xiao didn't care about the lives of those people. His gaze fell on the four of them, causing them to involuntarily tremble. Submit to me and live. Resist me and die. Ling Xiao's voice didn't have the slightest trace of emotion as he stared at the four of them. Under Ling Xiao's gaze, Demon Lord and the other three felt as if there was a knife at their backs. Each of them revealed a bitter smile in their eyes, but at the same time, they breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts. Compared to losing their lives, the four of them chose to submit in the end. Greetings, Master. Demon Lord and the other three clenched their teeth and knelt down. Then, under Ling Xiao's cold gaze, they sullenly saluted, especially young Master Wushuang. His eyes were filled with incomparable grief and indignation. The three great grandmasters were known as the three strongest people in the world, and young Master Wushuang was known as a peerless genius rarely seen in 1,000 years. Now, under Ling Xiao's coercion, they actually submitted to him. In 3 months, tell all the Great Grandmaster experts that the Great Grandmaster Conference will be held at Taichung Mountain's Greater One Sect. If they don't come, you should be very clear about the consequences. Ling Xiao didn't even look at the four of them. Instead, he said indifferently, then turned into a stream of light and left Heavenly Mountain's peak. Great Grandmaster Conference? Demon Lord and the other three couldn't help but tremble. Their eyes were filled with uncertainty. They were all guessing what Ling Xiao wanted to do, but they had no clue. Whoosh! Chapter 2442. The Xiantian true qi in his body was turbulent and vast, like an unfathomable divine sea. It was surging in his meridians like a great river. Ling Xiao inhaled and exhaled the essence of heaven and earth. He could feel a mysterious resonance between his breathing and heaven and earth, allowing him to use his own strength to affect the vast heaven and earth. Every move he made had the power to destroy heaven and earth. He could even feel that he could touch that illusory space. Shattering the void. The divine light in Ling Xiao's eyes flickered as he disappeared into the endless sea of clouds. In the small mountain village at the foot of Taichung Mountain, there was a winding river at the entrance of the village. It was extremely clear. A stone bridge was placed over the river, and in front of it was a forest of peach trees. At this moment, the peach blossoms in the forest were no longer there. Instead, white peaches hung on the branches, causing the branches to bend. Every time, Nanan would bring Big Yellow through the forest and sit on the stone bridge, looking into the distance as if she was waiting for something. The sun was warm and the mountain village was quiet. Everything was beautiful. Big Yellow, do you think Big Brother Ling Xiao will come back? Nanan mumbled to herself. Her eyes were filled with worry, and there was a maturity and sadness that did not match her age. However, Big Yellow could not understand her. It lay lazily at her feet and rested its head on her thighs while squinting its eyes. If Big Brother Ling Xiao said he will come back, then he will definitely come back. But Big Yellow, I know Big Brother Ling Xiao is someone who will do great things. I can't be a burden to him, and I shouldn't drag him down. However, I just can't bear to leave him. I want to be with him forever. Nanan mumbled to herself softly. Her face was filled with sadness and happiness. Big Yellow seemed to be used to Nanan's mumbling. After all, Nanan would sit on the stone bridge and talk to herself for a long time every day. However, Big Yellow also missed that person a little. After all, when that person was around, it had big bones to eat every day. However, during this period of time, the big bones had long been eaten. Big Yellow felt that its standard of living had dropped drastically. It missed those big bones so much. All of a sudden, Big Yellow smelled blood. It opened its slightly squinted eyes and became extremely alert, then it stared into the distance. Over there, a figure slowly walked out of Taichung Mountain, holding a huge wild boar's carcass in his hand. The wild boar was bleeding from its 7 orifices as if its head had been smashed by a punch, and it died right away. The smell of blood that Big Yellow smelled came from the carcass of that wild boar. Was it that person? Big Yellow quivered and stood up right away. Big Yellow, what happened to you? The little girl, who was mumbling to herself, was puzzled. She followed Big Yellow's gaze and looked into the distance. She could not help but shiver because a familiar figure appeared in front of her. It was a young man dressed in white. His figure was vigorous and valiant. His long black hair was unruly and scattered behind his head. The corner of his mouth held a faint smile. When he smiled, it was very bright and beautiful. He was holding a huge wild boar in his hand. It weighed at least 1,000 pounds, but it was as light as a feather in his hand. Brother Ling Xiao. Nan looked at Ling Xiao in a daze. Her eyes were filled with inexplicable joy and surprise. Suddenly, tears flowed down her cheeks. She did not know why, but the moment she saw Ling Xiao, Nan felt extremely wronged. Her tears flowed uncontrollably, and soon, her eyes became blurry. Nan, what happened to you? Brother Ling Xiao is back. Ling Xiao's heart warmed. He hurriedly threw the wild boar's carcass on the ground and ran over. Then, he gently carried Nan and lovingly wiped away the tears on her face. Brother Ling Xiao, I thought you didn't want Nan anymore. Boo-hoo, Nan cried and laughed. She hugged Ling Xiao's neck tightly and was unwilling to let go. It was as if Ling Xiao would disappear if she let go. Silly girl, why would Brother Ling Xiao not want Nan? Come, let's go home. Ling Xiao felt the panic and helplessness in Nan's heart. He felt Nan's attachment and longing, and his heart became incomparably soft. Woof, woof, woof. Behind him, De Huang bit onto the wild boar's carcass and wanted to drag it back to the village. However, he could not drag such a large creature at all. He barked anxiously. Ling Xiao could not help but laugh. He carried Nan with one hand and grabbed the wild boar's carcass with the other. De Huang bit onto one of the wild boar's hooves and was unwilling to let go. He was also carried by Ling Xiao and walked towards the small mountain village. Soon, the quiet mountain village became lively because of Ling Xiao's appearance. The following days were the most peaceful days of Ling Xiao's life. He did not cultivate and did not think about anything. He just stayed by Nan Nan's side. Every day, he would go into the mountains to chop firewood and hunt. When he returned, Nan Nan had already prepared a large table of dishes and was waiting for him. This was also Nan Nan's happiest time. It was as if as long as brother Ling Xiao was by her side, everything would become incomparably beautiful. Ling Xiao felt an unprecedented peace in his heart. This was a forgotten world. However, the living beings in this world still had their own emotions. They still had their own feelings, their own hopes, and their own things to protect. Ling Xiao carefully experienced these emotions. He also immersed himself in them. Although he did not cultivate, his cultivation actually advanced by leaps and bounds in a strange way. It was as if he had returned to his original state. He was becoming more and more like a mortal. The brilliance was restrained, and his true qi dissipated. He seemed to have forgotten that he was a martial artist. He also forgot all his memories about cultivation. At this moment, he was just an ordinary person. It was only after 3 months that Ling Xiao felt a bottleneck. It was like a bottleneck, but also like a prison. It was as if this world had imprisoned Ling Xiao. He could not help but want to break this prison and then obtain freedom. Ling Xiao knew that perhaps he would break through to the shattering void realm if he took another step forward. This path, I finally reached the realm that Tai Yi mentioned. However, I don't believe that this is the only path. 3 months have passed. It's time to go. Ling Xiao muttered to himself. His gaze was incomparably calm as he looked in the direction of Mount Taichung. Brother Ling Xiao, are you leaving? When Nan Nan heard Ling Xiao's words, her face instantly became incomparably pale. That's right. Nan Nan, I'm leaving. However, I'll bring you along this time. No matter where I go in the future, I'll bring you along, okay? Ling Xiao smiled and patted Nan Nan's little head. Brother Ling Xiao, won't Nan Nan be a burden to you? I heard that the outside world is very dangerous. Nan Nan can stay here and wait for you to come back. Although Nan Nan was a little tempted, she still said to Ling Xiao. Nan Nan, don't worry. I can protect you. In this world, I have the final say. Chapter 2443. The world was in an uproar because of the Grand Master Conference. Whether it was the Great Zhou dynasty or the Meng Yuan Empire, whether it was the Jianghu sects or the major families, they were all shocked because of one name. Ling Xiao. On the peak of Tianshan Mountain, Ling Xiao had suppressed the 3 great grandmasters and young master Wushuang by himself. He had also announced that the Grand Master Conference would be held in Taichung Mountain in 3 months. The 3 great grandmasters were the most powerful people in the world, and they were also the most promising existences to break through the void. Great grandmasters were enemies of a country, and even the emperor of a country had to treat them with caution. Therefore, whether it was Chong Lu, All-Seer, or Murong Jin, they were all existences that could laugh at a country. But now, Ling Xiao had appeared, and he had suppressed the 3 great grandmasters and young master Wushuang by himself. It was shocking and unbelievable. Could it be that Ling Xiao had reached the realm of breaking through the void? What made people even more fearful was that the 3 great grandmasters and young master Wushuang had personally admitted to the world that they had recognized Ling Xiao as their master, and the news of the Grand Master Conference had come from them. Therefore, during this period of time, many people had come to Taichung Mountain, which was originally deserted. The dynasties, sects, clans, hidden experts, whether it was in the imperial court or in the pugilistic world, all of them were extremely curious about the name Ling Xiao. They were all thinking about how great of an influence and change the world would have upon the appearance of such an existence. The great grandmasters had come. Under the orders of the 3 great grandmasters and young master Wushuang, they did not dare to not come. In addition to the great grandmasters, many Xiantian experts and even Hotian experts had come to Taichung Mountain. The originally deserted Taichung Mountain had become somewhat lively. Tongtian Peak. Taichung Mountain was the tallest mountain. Although it was not as beautiful as Greater One Peak, which had the essence of heaven and earth, it was incomparably steep, like a divine sword piercing through the clouds. On top of Tongtian Peak, there was an ancient pine tree and a bluestone, surrounded by a sea of clouds. It was peaceful and magnificent. At this moment, Ling Xiao was sitting on the bluestone with Nan Nan in his arms, looking at the sea of clouds in front of him in a daze. His body exuded a kind of otherworldly temperament. Whoosh! 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 Chong Lu, All-Seer, Murong Jin, and young Master Peerless instantly appeared. They then respectfully bowed to Ling Xiao. Master, apart from the four of us, there are a total of 1,025 grandmasters in the world. They are all gathered at the foot of Tongtian Peak. Demon Lord respectfully bowed to Ling Xiao. Let them all come up. The Grandmaster Assembly will be held above the sea of clouds. Ling Xiao said indifferently without turning his head. Yes. Demon Lord nodded, then left Tongtian Peak with Murong Jin and Prince Wushuang to announce Ling Xiao's orders. All-Seer was the only one left behind Ling Xiao. All-Seer had a complicated expression on his face. How did you find out? All-Seer looked at Ling Xiao and said in a low voice. To be able to see through my origins with a single glance, the natives of this world aren't that capable. Moreover, All-Seer, don't you think you're too smart? Ling Xiao slowly turned his head and looked at All-Seer. His gaze was incomparably calm. All-Seer's words had no origin. Perhaps others wouldn't understand, but Ling Xiao understood. All-Seer also realized that Ling Xiao had seen through his identity. I was full of goodwill to you and didn't make a move against you. But I didn't expect you to be so ruthless. You won't even let an old man like me off. The human heart is really not what it used to be. All-Seer said with a wry smile. All-Seer, I'm really curious. How did you manage to live until now? But I heard that every generation of All-Seer's Grandmaster is called All-Seer. Could it be that you've cultivated some kind of cultivation technique that allows you to reincarnate indefinitely? Hee, if the people of the heavenly prison court knew that All-Seer, who calculated all the secrets of heaven, was living like a mouse here, I wonder what their expressions would be. Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. There was a glimmer of light in his eyes. That's right. The All-Seer in front of him was the All-Seer of the heavenly prison court, the one who left his name on the heavenly prison tablet, second only to Tai Yi. Ling Xiao had long noticed that something was wrong with him. After many probing, Ling Xiao realized that All-Seer had really discovered that he wasn't from this world. Moreover, from All-Seer's strange behavior, Ling Xiao had also guessed All-Seer's identity in his heart. Therefore, regardless of whether All-Seer had good or bad intentions towards Ling Xiao didn't make any distinction when he attacked. The three grandmasters suppressed him together. However, before Ling Xiao could ask All-Seer admitted it himself. You're right. I was lucky enough to obtain a cultivation technique that allows me to reincarnate indefinitely. Although I have an endless lifespan, do you know? Facing Tai Yi, I'm still in despair. Even now, I don't dare to break through the void. All-Seer sighed softly. He didn't hide anything and directly admitted it. Is Tai Yi very strong? Even if he's been here for countless years, he's at most in the realm of breaking through the void, right? How did he manage to kill so many people? Ling Xiao asked seriously. Tai Yi's strength is something you can't imagine. Although I've never broken through the void, in these hundreds of millions of years, I've seen many peerless geniuses in this world. But without exception, they all broke through the void and died at Tai Yi's hands, becoming nourishment for him. All-Seer's eyes held a trace of dejection. Is that so? So you'd rather reincarnate again and again than break through the void and face Tai Yi directly? You've already lost the courage to fight, or perhaps Tai Yi has already become your inner demon. Ling Xiao sneered. You're right. Tai Yi has indeed become my inner demon. I reincarnate again and again, hoping to find someone to defeat Tai Yi, or even break through this world and take me away from here. Tai Yi sighed softly. He didn't hide anything from Ling Xiao, nor was there any need to. Then do you think I can defeat Tai Yi? Ling Xiao asked indifferently. Perhaps, which is why I'm here. But I think your chances are less than 5%. But I think that perhaps you're different from the others. So this time, I'm here. All-Seer said seriously. He looked straight into Ling Xiao's eyes, his gaze full of calmness. Even if it's less than 5%, I'll still take the risk. All-Seer, this is the difference between you and me. If I can't defeat Tai Yi, I'll also fight vigorously. Otherwise, what's the difference between reincarnation and death? Chapter 2444. Rumble. A vast and powerful aura erupted from Ling Xiao's body. The golden light was dazzling and incomparably brilliant, making him look like a rising sun, standing at the top of the heaven's link peak, blooming with boundless radiance. Nan Nan was very sensible. She lay in Ling Xiao's arms without saying a word, but her eyes were full of attachment and happiness as she looked at Ling Xiao. It was as if no matter whether Ling Xiao was the invincible number one person in the world or the injured young man she had just picked up, it didn't change at all. All-Seer looked at Ling Xiao's back and felt an inexplicable sense of excitement. His heart, which had long been calm, felt as though a huge wave had been set off in his heart. Perhaps he really did have hope. All-Seer thought to himself. At this moment, the sea of clouds in the surroundings surged. Endless divine light rose, and vast amounts of Xiantian true qi intertwined. It was as if a terrifying gale had been set off, enveloping the entire heaven-connecting peak. Figures with powerful auras stepped into the air and appeared above the sea of clouds. Everyone's eyes fell on Ling Xiao. Those gazes were filled with awe, shock, curiosity, disdain. All kinds of emotions converged, and their gazes seemed to have substance. Being stared at by so many grandmasters at the same time, even a great grandmaster would feel uneasy. In this world, more than 1,000 evolved Jing masters had all gathered. Greetings, Supreme Ling Xiao. Greetings, Supreme Ling Xiao. Greetings, Supreme Ling Xiao, led by Chong Lu, Murong Jin, All-Seer, and young Master Wushuang. Many evolved Jing masters bowed to Ling Xiao at the same time. Their voices were like thunder from the 9 heavens, causing the sky to rumble. Rumble. As they bowed, everyone's body emitted a vast aura. It gathered together and swept towards Ling Xiao like a huge storm. To be able to withstand the bow of so many evolved Jing masters, an ordinary person would have already gone weak and been torn to pieces by the storm. However, when the storm was about to reach the peak of heaven-connecting peak, it seemed to be blocked by a transparent barrier and then disappeared without a trace. Ling Xiao's expression was indifferent and calm. He looked at everyone in front of him and calmly accepted their bows. Supreme Ling Xiao. Don't call me Supreme anymore. Call me Ancestor from now on. The corners of Ling Xiao's mouth curled up slightly as he spoke to the crowd. However, his words were like a clap of thunder, instantly causing everyone's expressions to change drastically. Those who had originally revealed looks of reverence instantly revealed looks of anger. There was only one person in the entire world who was qualified to be called Patriarch, and that was Patriarch Tai Yi. Patriarch Tai Yi was respected as the patriarch of the human race. He was the one who created the path of martial arts, passed down the cultivation method, and helped the human race defeat the demonic beasts. He was the one who created the civilization of the human race. Therefore, everyone in the world only recognized Tai Yi as their ancestor. They could submit to Ling Xiao, they could revere Ling Xiao's strength, but they could never call Ling Xiao their ancestor. Among these furious gazes, Ling Xiao also saw an incomparably familiar gaze. It was the sect master of the Greater One sect, Qin Feng. At this moment, his entire body was trembling, and the gaze he used to look at Ling Xiao was filled with disbelief and anger. In his view, Ling Xiao was a disciple of the Greater One sect. For him to say such words at this moment, it was disgraceful. What? Not saying a word. It seems that you are unwilling to acknowledge me as your ancestral master. Ling Xiao's gaze swept across the crowd as he spoke indifferently. At this moment, even Chong Lu, Murong Jin, All-Seer, and young Master Wushuang were somewhat silent. Ling Xiao's words seemed to have touched some kind of taboo. Even if he was incomparably powerful, it was impossible for him to convince everyone. Lord Ling Xiao, we all know that you are very powerful. Even the three great masters are no match for you, but Patriarch Tai is not to be humiliated. That's right. Patriarch Tai created the path of martial arts. He is the master of the human race. You're also a practitioner of the martial Tao. What you're doing is simply treason. Patriarch Tai is not to be humiliated. After someone took the lead, all the martial masters seemed to have gathered their courage. They all glared angrily at Ling Xiao and berated him. There was a strange light in Ling Xiao's eyes. He seemed to see that above everyone's heads, there were mysterious lines that stretched into the void and gathered in that mysterious unknown place. The power of faith. Tai, is this what you are relying on? Ling Xiao muttered to himself, a trace of mockery in his eyes. Boom! Golden lightning seemed to rise around Ling Xiao's body, and a loud rumble erupted. His entire body rose into the air, exuding a vast and powerful aura. Everyone's hearts trembled. They thought that Ling Xiao was angry and wanted to attack them. They could not help but become extremely vigilant, preparing to escape. They had never seen Ling Xiao fight. In their hearts, they thought that even if Ling Xiao was very strong, there were more than 1,000 martial masters here. If they insisted on escaping, Ling Xiao would not be able to do anything. Did Tai create the path of martial arts? You are right. I also cultivate the martial arts. However, from today onwards, I will establish my own sect. I will break away from the martial arts and create the divine path. Ling Xiao did not attack in a rage as everyone expected. Instead, he spoke calmly. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, the vast Xiantian true qi around him suddenly exploded. The Dantian and deity qi in his body also disappeared without a trace. All the meridians in his body were exploding, and his qi and blood rose. His originally powerful aura rapidly weakened. Everyone was stunned. They did not think that Ling Xiao would actually directly cripple their cultivation at the slightest disagreement. What was this operation? How dare he? Someone whispered, his eyes full of disbelief. Ling Xiao was able to suppress the three great grandmasters and young master Wushuang. Everyone thought that he had already cultivated the Greater One Scripture to the extreme and possessed a superb divine skill. But who would have thought that he would directly cripple his own cultivation and even say that he wanted to break away from the martial way and create the divine way? He is courting death. A trace of killing intent appeared in someone's eyes, and they became somewhat restless. Even Chong Lu, Murong Jin, and young master Wushuang could not help but change their eyes at this moment. Their expressions became incomparably subtle. From today onwards, I will create the divine path. In the future, no one in this world is allowed to cultivate the martial arts. They must cultivate the divine path. Tai is a heretic and must be eliminated. You are all my disciples. Do you have any objections? Ling Xiao smiled faintly and looked at everyone as he spoke slowly. He is crazy. Everyone could not help but have the same thought in their hearts. Chapter 2445. Everyone, this man is an evil demon. He actually tried to subvert martial arts and slander Patriarch Tai. He deserves to die. Everyone has the right to kill him. Someone suddenly shouted, which immediately triggered the killing intent and the desire to resist in everyone's hearts. Kill him. Kill. Many grandmasters were boiling with murderous intent. Each of them released a terrifying aura and charged towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's cultivation had been crippled. In their eyes, he was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Even if he still had some strength, under the siege of so many grandmasters, there was no way he could survive. Rumble. More than 1,000 grandmasters attacked. What kind of scene was that? The vast sea of clouds in the surroundings suddenly shattered. Everyone's aura gathered together and rushed towards Ling Xiao like a frenzied storm. Dazzling divine light rose up as everyone displayed their own powerful martial arts skills and charged towards Ling Xiao. Chong Lu, Murong Jin, and young Master Wushuang's eyes flickered. They chose to remain silent. They were afraid of Ling Xiao's strength, but they were more willing to see him die. What is he trying to do? Although All-Seer looked calm on the surface, he was extremely shocked. Especially when he saw Ling Xiao's incomparably calm expression, he felt even more uncertain. A bunch of motley crew. Today, I'll show you what a true divine path is. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. Facing the attack of thousands of grandmasters, he did not show the slightest fear. Rumble. Dazzling golden light erupted from his body, and a vast amount of qi and blood rose, flowing like a great river, containing an incomparably vast amount of vitality. Ling Xiao punched out, and a golden fist mark expanded in the void. It was like a mysterious world, bursting out majestically and shrouding all the Zongshi masters. Roar! Roar! An ancient dragon's roar pierced the sky, and a tiger's roar shook the world, exuding an incomparably ferocious aura. Everyone only felt an ancient aura erupting. In that world, a golden divine dragon and a giant white tiger appeared directly, and suddenly pounced on everyone. Damn it, what is this? Not good, everyone run. How could a legendary ancient divine beast appear here? Everyone was trembling all over, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. The golden dragon and the white tiger looked extremely lifelike, causing their legs to go weak and their bodies to tremble. It was impossible for them to put up any effective resistance. Furthermore, what made them feel even more hopeless was that other than the divine dragon and the white tiger, there was also a phoenix shrouded in flames, a qilin that controlled lightning, a black tortoise with monstrous waves, a kunpeng that swallowed the sun and moon. Countless legendary creatures had appeared before them. Even Chong Lu, Murong Jin, and Master Peerless were not surprised at all. They were sucked into this world and were completely stunned. A punch to create a world. What kind of divine ability was this? They had never heard of it before. No one had expected that Ling Xiao would still be able to release such a powerful force after crippling his own cultivation. Moreover, there wasn't even the slightest fluctuation of Xiantian qi. Could this be the divine Tao that Ling Xiao spoke of? Puff! 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 In the face of these ancient creatures, no one had any thoughts of resistance. They couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and their auras instantly became extremely weak. Now, tell me your choice. Die, or become my disciple. Ling Xiao's voice rang out like thunder, entering everyone's ears. Rumble. Endless golden light shrouded Ling Xiao's figure as he rose into the air. Those powerful ancient creatures floated around Ling Xiao like stars surrounding the moon, making Ling Xiao look mysterious and powerful, filled with an inviolable majesty. Ancestral Master, please spare my life. This disciple is willing to become a disciple of the divine Tao. I don't want to die. Greetings to the Ancestral Master, the divine Tao shall prosper, and the martial Tao shall perish. From today onwards, I am a disciple of the divine Tao. At this moment, those evolved Jing masters seemed to have grasped at a life-saving straw. They all began to swear, and no longer had the slightest trace of resistance. In the face of the threat of death, the so-called persistence was just a joke. Not to mention, Ling Xiao's punch not only destroyed all their fighting spirit, but also firmly imprinted the image of power and invincibility in their hearts. Whoosh! Ling Xiao's body flashed, and the golden world and countless powerful creatures all disappeared. Everyone reappeared in the sea of clouds, but their breathing was weak, and some had even suffered heavy injuries. At this moment, there was no longer a trace of disrespect in everyone's eyes when they looked at Ling Xiao. They were all full of reverence. Was that just an illusion, or did it really exist? Although everyone's hearts were filled with doubts, no one dared to question Ling Xiao at this moment. Greetings, Ancestral Master. Disciple Chong Lu today renounces the martial Tao and becomes a disciple of the divine Tao. From now on, it is my responsibility to protect the divine Tao. If I violate this oath, may the heavens and earth destroy me. Chong Lu suddenly knelt down in front of Ling Xiao, then gritted his teeth and directly slapped his own dantian, smashing his own dantian into powder. At the same time, the Xiantian true qi around him quickly dissipated. He was a ruthless person, directly crippling his own cultivation and being the first to surrender. Murong Jin and young master Wushuang clenched their teeth in their hearts, secretly cursing Chong Lu for changing the rudder according to the wind. Their silence just now must have made Ling Xiao unhappy. Now that Chong Lu was the first to cripple his cultivation, his position in Ling Xiao's heart must have changed greatly. Ancestral Master, disciple Murong Jin is willing to become a disciple of the Divine Tao. Ancestral Master, disciple Wushuang is willing to become a disciple of the Divine Tao. Murong Jin and young Master Wushuang also immediately knelt down in front of Ling Xiao and crippled their own cultivation, swearing that they would become a disciple of the Divine Tao. Under Ling Xiao's gaze, even All-Seer could not help but feel his heart skip a beat. He quickly crippled his own cultivation and also said that he would become a disciple of the Divine Tao. When everyone saw Chong Lu, Murong Jin, All-Seer, and the other 3 martial grandmasters, as well as young Master Wushuang, all of them were shocked, and their eyes revealed an incomparable struggle. However, under Ling Xiao's gaze, the thousands of martial grandmasters felt their scalps go numb. They knew that if they did not express themselves today, they would not be able to escape at all. In other words, if they did not become a disciple of the Divine Tao, they would die. Boom! 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 On the Heaven's Link Peak, many martial grandmasters immediately gritted their teeth and crippled their own cultivation. Their faces were incomparably pale and filled with despair. Chapter 2446. On Tongtian Peak, thousands of masters fell from the sea of clouds. After they crippled their cultivation, they could no longer stand in the air. Their faces were extremely pale, and their eyes were filled with despair. And among the thousands of masters, only one person did not choose to cripple his own cultivation. Ling Xiao, you betrayed Greater One sect and blasphemed Patriarch Tai. You will die a horrible death. In the sea of clouds, only Qin Feng stood in the air, looking very lonely. His eyes were filled with incomparable anger as he stared at Ling Xiao and said coldly. Sect Master Qin, as the saying goes, those who walk different paths cannot work together. Seeing that I once cultivated the Greater One scripture, I will not kill you. You can go. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Ling Xiao, you won't have a good ending if you go against the tide. Qin Feng seemed to have suddenly become incomparably old. His expression was bleak. He glanced at Ling Xiao, then turned and flew towards Greater One Peak. Patriarch, as the saying goes, cut the weeds and dig up the roots. You shouldn't let him go. Chong Lu said respectfully to Ling Xiao like a lackey. Let him be. Even if he was alone, he wouldn't be able to stir up any big waves. From today onwards, except for Greater One sect, no one is allowed to worship Patriarch Tai. Do you understand? Ling Xiao glanced at Chong Lu and said. Yes. Patriarch. Patriarch is a genius and created the Divine Tao. Naturally, he should become an ancestor. Compared to Patriarch, Tai is like a firefly compared to the sun and moon. But Patriarch, we have crippled our own cultivation. I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to contribute to Patriarch's great cause. Chong Lu said with a wry smile. Don't worry. Since I have established the Divine Tao, I will naturally give you a great fortune. You will soon know how lucky you are to have made such a choice. Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. Lucky? Everyone looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Now that they had crippled their own cultivation, although their physical bodies were still somewhat strong, they were already considered cripples. They were not even comparable to Xiantian realm experts, let alone master realm experts. Rumble. All of a sudden, Ling Xiao's body emitted a thunderous roar. Dazzling golden divine light gushed out from all the acupuncture points on his body, making him look ancient and mysterious. Today, I've established the divine Tao and will teach all of you the cultivation method of the divine Tao. All of you will understand that compared to the divine Tao, the so-called martial Tao isn't worth mentioning at all, and all of you have already gone astray, Ling Xiao said indifferently. His voice resounded throughout the heaven-connecting peak, causing everyone to shiver involuntarily. Roar! The roar of a dragon shook the heavens. In an instant, a golden light shone from Ling Xiao's palm as a lifelike divine dragon appeared. It soared through the heavens, exuding an unparalleled divine aura. What is that? Someone exclaimed, his entire body trembling. They saw the golden dragon floating in the sky, vaguely turning into a mysterious human figure. Dense veins appeared, connecting with each other, forming a Zhou-Tian cycle. It looked very magical. That seems to be a cultivation method, someone said slowly. Immediately, their eyes fell on the circulation of the veins. When they saw the golden dragon, they seemed to feel the qi and blood in their bodies flowing. Their bodies were heating up, as if an ancient power was about to awaken in their bodies. Roar! In addition to the golden dragon, there was another tiger roar that shook the void. A giant white tiger appeared beside Ling Xiao, exuding a ferocious aura. Similarly, countless circulation methods of the veins appeared. Soon, flames filled the void, and a strange fire phoenix flew out from the flames. Endless lightning intertwined, a vast qilin roared at the sky, a kunpeng overturned the rivers and seas, changing the yin and yang of heaven and earth, and a three-legged golden crow was as dazzling as the sun. Around Ling Xiao, there were 10 powerful ancient creatures floating, forming 10 mysterious scrolls that contained powerful cultivation methods. After seeing the 10 scrolls, everyone couldn't take their eyes off them. Their bodies trembled, and their faces were filled with excitement. The creation of heaven and earth, giving birth to all living things. The gods are clear, and they exist in people. Yin and yang soar into the sky. The cultivation method of the gods, stepping into the great Tao, dominating life and death. Ling Xiao's voice contained a mysterious rhythm, as if the surrounding heaven and earth were shaking and trembling with his voice. An incomparably mysterious scene appeared in the sky. Flowers fell from the sky, and golden lotuses bloomed from the ground. This was a scene that would only appear when Patriarch Tai was teaching. Now, when Ling Xiao was teaching, a strange scene appeared in the sky, and it was even more shocking than the legends. Ling Xiao sat cross-legged in the void, his body shining with golden light. It was as if a sun had appeared behind him. As he recited the scriptures, the 10 scrolls became more and more solid. The 10 incomparably powerful creatures, which were originally somewhat illusory, now seemed to have awakened from ancient times. They exuded an aura that made everyone tremble. At this moment, led by Chong Lu, All-Seer, Murong Jin, and young Master Wushuang, all the grandmasters sat down cross-legged. Each of them had a faint smile on their faces, and their bodies exuded a lustrous light. From the 10 scrolls, divine light began to sprinkle down, merging into everyone's bodies. They seemed to have fallen into a state of enlightenment, and each of them began to unconsciously assume various postures, filled with a strange sense of beauty. The cultivation methods contained in the 10 scrolls had all merged into their bodies at this moment, allowing them to enter a state of cultivation. The so-called martial Tao was nothing more than a process of tempering the body, condensing innate qi, opening up the body's divine treasures, and finally comprehending the nature of heaven and earth, and even breaking through the void. The divine Tao was completely different. The divine Tao didn't need to cultivate the body, but condensed powerful spiritual energy. It used spiritual energy to interfere with reality, forcibly opening up the body's divine treasures, and condensing a divine spirit in the divine treasures. Finally, it reached a supreme realm of enlightenment and rebirth. Of course, the cultivation of the divine Tao was more demanding than the martial Tao. It required a powerful visualization method to consciously condense spiritual energy, and then open up the body's divine treasures. These 10 scrolls of Ling Xiao's were the most powerful visualization techniques. The Dragon God visualization, the White Tiger visualization, the Phoenix visualization, the Qilin visualization, the Kunpeng visualization, these techniques were all passed down by Ling Xiao. As long as everyone visualized the original forms of these powerful creatures, they would obtain the cultivation methods from them, and offer up their most devout beliefs. Then, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. Chapter 2447. Boom! Ling Xiao saw that All Seer's blood qi was rising, and his glabella was emitting a bright light. In his body, yin and yang qi were rising. Then, in an instant, a Kunpeng rushed into the sky, exuding an insufferably fierce aura. All Seer's aura was getting stronger and stronger, and it quickly surpassed the innate realm. Then, with an irresistible force, he broke through the innate realm and stepped into the master realm. Moreover, he was still getting stronger. Then, it was Chong Lu, Murong Jin, and Master Wushuang. Their hearts were filled with incomparable ecstasy. After practicing the powerful visualization techniques that Ling Xiao passed down, not only did they not lose their cultivation, but they also began to gradually recover and advance by leaps and bounds. Apart from the four of them, the remaining Master Realm experts also felt the power of the 10 visualization techniques. Each of them began to practice seriously. Just like that, Ling Xiao passed down the Divine Path techniques on Tongtian Peak for 9 days and 9 nights. During these 9 days, the entire Tongtian Peak was filled with thunder, divine light, and auspicious air. The flowers and trees on Tongtian Peak began to grow crazily, as if they were suddenly injected with an incomparably exuberant vitality. On Tongtian Peak, ancient trees towered into the sky. The green trees were shady, as if they had turned into an ocean of life, causing unimaginable changes. During these 9 days, all the experts who had crippled their cultivation actually recovered all their strength after practicing the visualization techniques. Moreover, they became stronger and stronger. Spirit Condensation Realm, Spirit Transformation Realm, Empty God Realm, and True God Realm. These 4 realms corresponded to the Acquired Realm, Innate Realm, Master Realm, and Void-Breaking Realm respectively. They were also the realms that Ling Xiao created the Divine Path. In 9 days and 9 nights, all the Master Realm experts had the cultivation of the Empty God Realm. Their mental strength was incomparably strong, and the divine treasures in their bodies began to open. Moreover, with their powerful mental strength, they condensed the divine spirit and entered the divine treasures, controlling the power of the divine treasures. This made their mental and physical strength stronger than before. It could be said that after crippling their cultivation, everyone was on the verge of despair. However, they did not expect that after practicing the 10 visualization techniques that Ling Xiao passed down, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds, and their strength would become even stronger than before. Ancestral Master Ling Xiao. Ancestral Master Ling Xiao. Ancestor Ling Xiao. After 9 days and 9 nights, when Ling Xiao finished teaching the Divine Path, no matter if it was Chong Lu and the other 3 or the thousands of Empty God Realm experts, all of them were trembling and their eyes were filled with fanaticism. They finally understood Ling Xiao's greatness. It turned out that Ling Xiao wasn't being arrogant. Instead, Ling Xiao had truly created a supreme divine Tao. He was on par with Patriarch Tai, and perhaps even surpassed him. Originally, everyone had crippled their own cultivation under Ling Xiao's oppression. However, at this moment, they all worshipped Ling Xiao from the bottom of their hearts. Naturally, they called Ling Xiao ancestor. Ling Xiao's eyes slowly opened. There seemed to be a mysterious scene of the opening of the world and the evolution of all things. However, it quickly disappeared without a trace. He looked at the crowd and gestured with his hand. Instantly, everyone quieted down and looked at Ling Xiao with fanatical eyes. From today onwards, you are all seeds of the Divine Tao. I hope that you can spread the Divine Tao throughout the world. The martial Tao is a wrong path. I hope you can save those who have gone astray. You will be the most outstanding disciples of the Divine Tao. So, everyone, work hard. Ling Xiao's voice was calm and indifferent. However, in the ears of the crowd, it was like a sudden clap of thunder. It made them feel as if they had been injected with chicken blood. The Divine Tao will prosper, and the martial Tao will perish. The Divine Tao will prosper, and the martial Tao will perish. The Divine Tao will prosper, and the martial Tao will perish. The voices shook the sky like a tsunami. They contained a power fluctuation that could destroy the heavens and the earth. They were extremely fanatical, as if at this moment, no matter who stood in front of them, they would be torn to pieces. Is this the power of faith? There was a strange look in Ling Xiao's eyes. He could see that when those people were shouting fanatically, there was a mysterious power that spread from their bodies and condensed around Ling Xiao. It made him look even more mysterious and ethereal. That was the legendary power of faith. Ling Xiao had founded the divine Tao. Anyone who cultivated the divine Tao would devoutly visualize the 10 Dharma aspects and offer up their power of faith. The 10 Dharma aspects were all Ling Xiao's avatars. When they visualized the 10 Dharma aspects, it was like they were visualizing Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao had vaguely sensed before that the founding of the martial Tao and the founding of a new civilization was essentially to gather the power of faith. Unfortunately, Tai had chosen to shatter the void later on. He had not intentionally made any arrangements for this, so the power of faith he had gathered all came from the spontaneous contributions of the disciples who cultivated the martial Tao. Even so, the power of faith Tai had probably reached an extremely terrifying level in the past hundreds of millions of years. Ling Xiao had founded the divine Tao to sever Tai's source of power of faith. At the same time, he would gather more power of faith to contend against Tai. And under his conscious arrangements, it probably wouldn't be long before this world would become a world of the divine Tao. Although Ling Xiao knew that after contributing the power of faith, these people would never be able to break through to the fourth realm and become experts of the true God realm. But these people were Ling Xiao's seeds, the seeds that would trigger a great change in the entire world. Patriarch, don't worry. In 10 years, there will be no more martial Tao in this world. My divine Tao is the great Tao, the right path. Those who don't cultivate the divine Tao are heretics. Chong Lu knelt down heavily and bowed respectfully to Ling Xiao. His eyes were full of fanatical worship. If Chong Lu had some selfish motives before, after Ling Xiao imparted the divine Tao, he had become Ling Xiao's #1 admirer. You can go. The future of the divine Tao depends on you. Ling Xiao said indifferently as he watched Chong Lu and the others leave Tongtian Peak. They left with the 10 scrolls that Ling Xiao had given them. Ling Xiao had told them to spread these 10 visualization techniques throughout the world for everyone to cultivate. The seeds had been planted. Next, it was time for them to exert their strength. Ling Xiao believed that with so many experts taking action, it wouldn't be long before the divine Tao became the only cultivation method in this world. Below Tongtian Peak, the Great Zhou dynasty, the Meng Yuan Empire, the aristocratic families, and the sects had all witnessed the changes on Tongtian Peak with their own eyes. At this moment, they were completely dumbfounded, and their hearts were filled with incomparable shock. In just a few days, they had witnessed the birth of a peerless genius comparable to the Patriarch of Tai, who had declared that he would destroy the martial Tao and create the only divine Tao. They trembled all over, suppressing the fear in their hearts. But they also vaguely knew that this world was about to be thrown into chaos. Chapter 2448. On Tongtian Peak, everyone had left, leaving only Ling Xiao and Nan Nan. Brother Ling Xiao, I also want to cultivate Shinto. Nan Nan, who had been very quiet, suddenly raised her little face and said seriously to Ling Xiao. Oh. Why does Nan Nan want to cultivate Shinto? Ling Xiao said with a smile. His eyes were filled with interest. Because I want to help brother Ling Xiao. I want to become very, very powerful, so powerful that no one in this world can hurt you. Nan Nan said seriously. Her voice was young, but it was very determined. Ling Xiao said with a smile, okay. Nan Nan is so obedient. I will teach you the cultivation method of Shinto and let you become the most powerful person in the world. Ling Xiao touched Nan Nan's little head. Let's go home. Ling Xiao said. Okay. Nan Nan forcefully nodded her head and said. After leaving Tongtian Peak, Ling Xiao and Nan Nan returned to the small mountain village. The small mountain village was still very quiet, as if no one had come to disturb them. The sun was warm and bright, and the small river flowed. Everything was very peaceful. Knowing that Ling Xiao lived here, Chong Lu, Murong Jin, All-Seer, and Master Wushuang all warned everyone and listed this place as a forbidden area. No one was allowed to come here. However, Ling Xiao saw a familiar figure in the small mountain village. Miss Qin Yao. Ling Xiao's expression was slightly stunned. Qin Yao stood on the stone bridge, wearing a white dress. Her skin was as white as jade, and her hair was like a waterfall. She looked like a picture scroll. Her face was full of complicated and disbelief. She was slightly pale, but when she saw Ling Xiao, her eyes couldn't help but light up. Ling Xiao, why did you do this? Qin Yao asked. Her voice was a little hoarse, and she wanted an answer. Qin Yao, you don't understand. Tai Yi and I are mortal enemies. This is a fight between orthodoxies. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. Although I am very grateful that you let me cultivate Tai Yi scripture, martial arts must be destroyed. This world will only have Shinto in the future. Ling Xiao sighed softly, but his eyes were filled with determination. Mortal enemies? Tai Yi has been dead for hundreds of millions of years. What hatred do you have with him? I think it's your ambition. Ling Xiao, you disappoint me. Qin Yao sneered, her eyes full of disappointment. Miss Qin Yao, there are many things that you don't understand. But you will understand in the future. Please go ahead, I will not let anyone harm the Supreme Sect, but the Supreme Sect will have to behave in the future. Ling Xiao said calmly. Then, he held Nanan's hand and walked towards the mountain village. Ling Xiao, I hate you. Qin Yao's whole body trembled, and her eyes were red. In an instant, tears welled up in her eyes. She glared at Ling Xiao with hatred, then turned around and left. Big brother Ling Xiao, why does that sister hate you? Nan Nan asked as if she understood something. Maybe I'm different from what she imagined. Ling Xiao chuckled. In the following days, Ling Xiao and Nan Nan lived in the small mountain village. It was as if they were living in seclusion, ignoring the mundane world. Ling Xiao also began to teach Nan Nan the cultivation method of the divine way. Ling Xiao discovered that Nanan's talent was surprisingly astonishing. She was actually able to cultivate the 10 great visualization methods at the same time. Moreover, her cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. But at this moment, the outside world was in complete chaos. The 3 great masters and young master Wushuang represented the 4 people with the strongest strength and the highest status in the world. Chong Lu was the master of the demon sect. The disciples of the demon sect were spread all over the world. It was said that there were millions of disciples, and it was undoubtedly the #1 sect in the Jianghu. Murong Jin was the ancestor of the great Zhou dynasty. In terms of seniority, he was the grandfather of the current great Zhou emperor. The great Zhou emperor obeyed his every word, and he possessed a monstrous fist force. All-Seer was the imperial teacher of the Meng Yuan Empire. When the emperor of the Meng Yuan Empire saw him, he had to treat him as a disciple. All-Seer had countless fanatical admirers in the Meng Yuan Empire. As for young master Wushuang, he was the successor of the #1 family in the Jianghu. With a raise of his arm, countless ancient families would respond. After these 4 people left the Tongtian Peak, they jointly issued a divine way decree. They told the world that from today onwards, the martial way was abolished. No one was allowed to cultivate the martial way, and they could only cultivate the divine way. Moreover, they wanted to burn all martial way cultivation methods and pass down the 10 great visualization methods. The more than 1,000 great masters also played an incomparably crucial role in this. The entire world set off a movement to allow trash to cultivate the divine way. At the very beginning, they naturally encountered an incomparably fierce resistance. After all, this was the world of martial way. The martial way was deeply ingrained in everyone's hearts. Prohibiting them from cultivating the martial way was the same as cutting off their roots. However, under the suppression of the 4 of them and the more than 1,000 great masters, the resistance was quickly quelled. More importantly, everyone saw the benefits of the divine way. The 10 great visualization methods were unreservedly spread throughout the world. Everyone who saw the visualization methods could comprehend a peerless martial art that was suitable for them. Moreover, the divine way visualization methods used one's soul as the foundation to open the divine treasures of the physical body. Although it was different from martial way cultivation, they were different paths to the same goal. Moreover, with the support of the 10 great visualization methods, the cultivation speed was faster, easier, and more powerful. As a result, the entire world began to change in the direction that Ling Xiao wanted. In the process of this change, the name of ancestor Ling Xiao began to resound throughout the world. Apart from the Tai sect on Taichung Mountain, all the statues of ancestor Ling Xiao were dismantled. Temples and statues of ancestor Ling Xiao were rebuilt in every state and county. Moreover, the most mysterious divine way visualization methods were hidden in these temples. As a result, the incense in these temples was incomparably vigorous. Every day, countless devout disciples would come to offer their faith, and then comprehend a peerless martial art that was suitable for them from the divine way visualization methods. Everyone gradually forgot about the martial way and ancestor Ling Xiao. Even if there were stubborn people who wanted to adhere to the martial way, they gradually died under the bloody suppression. 10 years passed quickly. 10 years later, Ling Xiao sat cross-legged on Tongtian Peak. Dressed in white, he looked at the changing sea of clouds in front of him. His eyes were deep and mysterious. Behind him stood Chong Lu, Murong Jin, All-Seer, and young Master Wushuang. Chong Lu and the other three looked at Ling Xiao with eyes full of fanatical worship. They felt that Ling Xiao's aura was becoming more and more unfathomable. It was the feeling of looking up to a high mountain, like ants looking up to a divine dragon. It was as if the gap between them and Ling Xiao was getting bigger and bigger every day. Whoosh! Chapter 2449. Brother Ling Xiao, the 36 rebellious lords in Bing province have all been killed. Am I very powerful? Nanan's face was filled with joy as she asked Ling Xiao. Nan has always been powerful. Not bad. To be able to kill 36 empty God Realm experts in such a short time, it seems that you are getting closer to the true God Realm. Ling Xiao said with a smile. In the past 10 years, the divine path had become the general trend of the world. Everyone had started to cultivate the divine path and no one practiced martial arts. It was as if martial arts had become a taboo. However, in this process, there were also some people who were unwilling to be left out. They wanted to strive for the supreme position and even challenged Ling Xiao's authority. Of course, those people all failed. Just like the large-scale rebellion of the 36 rebellious lords in Bing province, 36 empty God Realm experts were all killed by Nan in just 3 days. Miss Nan is getting more and more powerful. I really don't know who will be worthy of Miss Nan in the future. All-Seer said with a smile. He was one of the few people who could speak a few words with Ling Xiao. This made Chong Lu and the other two extremely jealous, but there was nothing they could do. All these years, All-Seer had played the role of a loyal henchman, giving advice to Ling Xiao to seize the world's fate and the power of faith. Perhaps others were not clear, but All-Seer was very clear. Currently, Ling Xiao had gathered the boundless fortune of the world and obtained the faith of billions of people. The power of fortune and faith gathered around him like he had condensed an indestructible divine body, allowing him to reach an extreme level of strength. Although Ling Xiao's cultivation was still at the peak of the empty God realm, All-Seer knew that even if an expert who had broken through the void appeared in front of Ling Xiao, he would not be surprised at all. He would be slapped to death by Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao had only been suppressing his own cultivation all this time, accumulating even more strength to face such a terrifying enemy. I don't want to get married. I want to be by brother Ling Xiao's side forever. Nanan's face turned red as she said with a smile. Nan, go out with the 4 of them to gain experience. I also want to go out for a walk. This world is getting more and more interesting. Ling Xiao said with a smile. Then, he slowly stood up from the Tongtian Peak. Rumble. After Ling Xiao stood up, Chong Lu and the other three couldn't help but tremble. They felt as if the world had been turned upside down. An ancient giant had awakened from his slumber, exuding a monstrous aura. They couldn't help but be aghast. Too strong. Just what level had ancestor Ling Xiao reached? Brother Ling Xiao, I want to go with you. Nan Nan curled her lips and said. Nan Nan, be good. This time, I have something important to verify. If you want to help me, then work hard to cultivate to the true God realm. Ling Xiao said with a smile. Seeing that Ling Xiao had rejected her, Nan Nan was a little disappointed. However, she knew Ling Xiao's personality, so she did not force him. Instead, she nodded her head unhappily. Ancestor, don't worry, we will definitely take good care of Miss Nan Nan. Demon Lord and the other three quickly expressed their stance. Good. I'm going. Ling Xiao nodded his head. He took a step forward and stepped into the sea of clouds. His entire body emitted a dazzling golden light under the sunlight. However, everyone felt their vision blur. Ling Xiao silently disappeared before everyone's eyes. Ling Xiao left. This was the first time he left after 10 years. He wanted to see if there were any secrets in this world that he did not understand. In the void that no one could see, the vast power of faith gushed towards Ling Xiao like a waterfall. It poured into his sea of consciousness and even allowed him to condense a mysterious primordial spirit. Ling Xiao had now obtained the fate of the world. The endless fate and power of faith all belonged to him. Ling Xiao even felt that he already had the power of a god. In his sea of consciousness, all the thoughts of the living beings in this world intertwined and collided in his sea of consciousness. He was like a god who could see through everything. He could see through the thoughts of all the living beings in this world. However, after so many years, Ling Xiao discovered a very important problem. He didn't discover the whereabouts of the 10 Saint Kings, Hu Feng, the Great Axe, and the Purple Thunder Young Master. It was like they had vanished into thin air. Or, it could be said that they had never appeared in this world. Perhaps there is more than one smelting trial world. But why would Tai appear in this world? Why would All-Seer, Sir Divine Void, and even those people on the stone tablet have all left their traces in this world? Ling Xiao frowned. This was a problem that he still couldn't figure out. This was also the reason why he left Skysplit Peak. The 10 Saint Kings, Hu Feng, the Great Axe, and the Purple Thunder Young Master had clearly entered the smelting trial world with him, but Ling Xiao hadn't discovered any trace of them. But when Ling Xiao flipped through the ancient texts, he was able to find out that those people on the stone tablet from the same era had also left their marks in this world. This was a very contradictory matter. Ling Xiao simply didn't know what was going on. Perhaps Tai is playing tricks on us. Ling Xiao thought to himself. Like this, he casually walked around. He walked into the bustling cities, walked through the great Zhou dynasty, came to the grasslands, entered the Meng Yuan Empire, and then walked through the pugilistic world. He set foot on the 4 seas, leaving behind his footprints in every corner of this world. He once lived in the open like a mortal, leading the natural forces of this world. He stepped into the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. He once ate in the clouds and ate in the air, instantly traversing all corners of the world, controlling the world. Sometimes, Ling Xiao felt that he was about to see through the secrets hidden in this world. But in the end, he always felt that he was missing something, and he was unable to break through the final layer of fog. Another 10 years later, Ling Xiao returned to the small mountain village at the base of Taichang Mountain. He was already 40 years old. His temples were slightly white and his eyes were no longer clear. They had become somewhat weathered. Although the life source in his body was as vigorous as the sea, there was no way for him to resist the life and death laws of this world. He began to age. Big brother Ling Xiao, you're back. Nan Nan stood on the stone bridge. When she saw Ling Xiao appear, her eyes revealed an inexplicable joy. She was still wearing a long green dress, and her figure was graceful. She had lost the innocence of a young girl and had matured. She was like a ripe peach, and her entire body was exuding a peerless aura. After so many years, the name of goddess Nan Nan had spread throughout the world. Countless people with extraordinary talent and countless young elites had madly pursued her in order to catch a glimpse of her beauty. However, they had all been rejected by Nan Nan. Chapter 2450. Nan Nan, why are you here? Ling Zhao's expression was slightly startled, and a complicated look appeared in his eyes. I was waiting for you to come back. Big brother Ling Zhao, you've been gone for 10 years, but it's good that you're back. Nan Nan smiled, and it was as if the world had lost its color. She looked at Ling Zhao with eyes full of longing, without the slightest bit of unfamiliarity, and full of surprise and affection. Nan Nan, you didn't have to wait for me. Ling Zhao thought for a moment, and said seriously to Nan Nan. He understood Nan Nan's feelings for him, but he couldn't accept it. He thought of Jin Se, thought of Shui Wei, and he didn't want to let one more person down. In the end, he still had to leave this world, and he didn't want to leave even a trace of concern in this world. The deeper Ling Zhao's understanding of this world, the more guesses he had, and the crueler the truth behind it. Big brother Ling Zhao, I'm actually very envious of sister Jin Se. But don't worry, I won't cause you any trouble, and I'll help you to bring Shinto to greater heights. Nan Nan's gaze was slightly dim, but she still forced a smile and said. Nan Nan, you don't have to be like this, Ling Zhao said with a bitter smile. But before he could finish, he was interrupted by Nan Nan. Big brother Ling Zhao, I'm relieved to see that you're back. I'm going to take care of things, the development of Shinto is getting better and better, Nan Nan is really busy. Nan Nan said with a smile, then turned and left. Ling Zhao could see that Nan Nan's back was slightly trembling, which made people feel pity for her. Ling Zhao let out a long sigh, but didn't say anything. The development of Shinto in the past 10 years was beyond Ling Zhao's expectations. Every city in this world had built Ling Zhao Temple, and a statue of Ling Zhao had been erected. Every day, incense burned continuously, and countless devout people would go to Ling Zhao Temple to comprehend the 10 great visualization techniques. Ling Zhao had become a godlike existence in this world, and countless people worshipped him with fanaticism. Among them, aside from Chong Lu, Murong Jin, All-Seer, and Master Wushuang, the most important was Nan Nan. Nan Nan was the goddess of the Ling Zhao Divine Palace. She represented Ling Zhao in the world, healing people, punishing evil, promoting good, and propagating the divine path. She had won countless believers for Ling Zhao. Now, even Chong Lu and the others were willing to accept Nan Nan's command. Under her leadership, they spread Shinto throughout the world. Ling Zhao stayed in the small mountain village. Every day, he would watch the clouds move and the flowers bloom and wilt. It was as if everything in the outside world had nothing to do with him. Ling Zhao comprehended the nature of heaven and earth. Every day, he was like a mortal, leaving early in the morning and returning late at night. He chopped firewood, hunted, and planted crops. He personally harvested every seed and cooked every dish. This small mountain village was incomparably peaceful. No one knew that Ling Zhao was the world-shaking divine ancestor, and no one knew that Nan Nan was the goddess who saved people from suffering. Here, Ling Zhao could feel his inner peace and freedom. The Tao of the heart is also the Tao of heaven. Once I open my heart realm, I might have the power to fight Tai Yi. Ling Zhao muttered to himself. Ling Zhao didn't know how he appeared in this world. Other than his consciousness, he didn't have any cultivation. He had completely become immortal. However, as Ling Zhao refined the power of faith during this period of time and gathered the world's fate, his heart force also began to improve by leaps and bounds. Under the push of the power of faith, he could actually cultivate the Taishu heart charm scripture. This was Ling Zhao's trump card. He didn't tell anyone. Now, Ling Zhao's Taishu heart charm scripture had reached the peak of the 5th level after recultivation. He was only one step away from the 6th level, the prominent divine realm. Ling Zhao could feel that when he reached the 6th level, he might be able to open his heart realm. At that time, he would be able to find a way out. Even if he didn't fight Tai Yi, he would still be able to find a way out. This was his final trump card, and also his greatest reliance. However, Ling Xiao also understood the mysteries of the Taishu heart charm scripture. Although he had reached the peak of the 5th level, he might be able to break through to the 6th level soon. However, there was also a possibility that he would never be able to break through. Therefore, Ling Xiao consciously didn't cultivate. It was as if he had forgotten himself and everything. He was like a mortal struggling to survive in this vast world. Another 20 years passed. Ling Xiao was already 60 years old. His hair and beard were all white, and his white robes fluttered in the wind. He looked more and more like an old immortal. Many of the old people in the village had already passed away, but Ling Xiao still lived peacefully in that small courtyard. Most of the time, Nan Nan was outside dealing with divine matters. However, every month, she would definitely come back to stay for a few days. She would accompany Ling Xiao to eat and watch the sea of clouds with him on the heaven-connecting peak. They were like two old friends. Although they didn't speak, they had a tacit understanding. On this day, Chong Lu, All-Seer, and Murong Jin all came. The three of them were nearing the end of their lifespans. They were all senile and their skin was like tree bark. Their lives had already come to an end. They were like candles in the wind, about to be extinguished at any time. However, Chong Lu and Murong Jin's eyes were filled with anxiety, unwillingness, and anticipation. In these years, they had enjoyed the endless prosperity of the mortal world and possessed monstrous fist force. Although their lives were coming to an end, they were even more unwilling to die like this. Therefore, they came to find Ling Xiao. This divine ancestral master might be able to help them take that final step and become true gods. As long as they could break through the void and become true gods, they might be able to have a long lifespan. This was a temptation that they couldn't refuse. However, All-Seer was different. Ling Xiao knew that he was going to be reincarnated again. Why have you come here? Ling Xiao's hair and beard were all white. He sat cross-legged on a large green rock and looked at the sea of clouds in front of him. He didn't turn his head. Ancestral Master, please teach this disciple the way to immortality. Ancestral Master, please tell this disciple the way to break through to the true God realm. Chong Lu and Murong Jin bowed deeply to Ling Xiao. They knelt down and kowtowed. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. All-Seer, on the other hand, stood silently to the side, faintly separating himself from the two of them. During this period of cultivation, Chong Lu and Murong Jin's cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. Their strength was more than 10 times stronger than 30 years ago. They had already reached the peak of the Nihility God realm and were only one step away from the true God realm. Therefore, they were even more eager to break through to the true God realm. However, the cultivation method of the 10 great visualization methods seemed to have some kind of flaw. There was no method to break through to the true God realm. They all thought that Ling Xiao was hiding something. This kind of dissatisfaction grew deeper and deeper as time passed. It even turned into resentment. The true God realm is right in front of you. It's just that you can't see it. The method can't be taught easily. Everything needs to be comprehended by yourselves. The method to break through is hidden in the 10 great visualization methods. Ling Xiao said indifferently. His voice was incomparably ethereal. Chapter 2451. Ancestral Master, I have a question that has been bothering me for a long time. Please enlighten me. Chong Lu suddenly said. Tell me. Ling Xiao said. I've observed that Ancestral Master's cultivation has always been at the complete empty God realm. Why didn't Ancestral Master take the last step to break through the void and ascend to the true God realm and live forever? Or does Ancestral Master not know how to break through to the true God realm? Chong Lu stood up and looked straight at Ling Xiao. His eyes were extremely sharp. That's right. Ancestral Master, please enlighten me. Murong Jin stood up as well. There was a trace of madness in his eyes. At this point, the threat of death had finally overwhelmed their respect for Ling Xiao. If Ling Xiao did not give them an answer today, perhaps they would really kill him. Why didn't I break through? It's because I don't want to break through. Are the two of you trying to deceive your ancestral master? Ling Xiao said indifferently. His voice was still very calm, without the slightest fluctuation. Deceive our ancestral master? Ha ha ha. So what if we deceive our ancestral master? You're only at the complete empty god realm. What qualifications do you have to be our ancestral master? As long as we kill you, we can also become the ancestral masters of the divine path. Chong Lu suddenly laughed. His eyes were filled with an incomparably crazy killing intent. Whoosh! 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 As his laughter rang out, dozens of powerful figures rose into the air around Tongtian Peak. They emitted a monstrous aura. Their eyes were filled with cold killing intent as they locked onto Ling Xiao, who was in the middle. There were a total of 79 figures. Including Chong Lu and Murong Jin, there were 81 people. The aura of the 79 figures was incomparably terrifying. They had all reached the complete empty god realm. Their auras were connected as one, like a terrifying storm, causing the surrounding sky to tremble violently. It seems that you've already planned for this day. Ling Xiao slowly turned his head. His gaze fell on Chong Lu and Murong Jin. There was a strange look in his eyes. Chong Lu and Murong Jin did not like that kind of gaze. It was like a divine dragon facing the provocation of an ant. It was an extremely strong confidence, leaving only a fearless indifference and calmness. Ling Xiao, you are only at the great empty god realm. There are 81 of us here. Even if you are a god, you will definitely die under the god-slaying array. If you're sensible, hand over the method to break through to true god realm. Otherwise, nobody can save you. Demon Lord sneered. Rumble. He and Murong Jin both exuded a terrifying aura. One of them was like a dragon, the other was like a tiger. Both of them exuded a ferocious aura that overflowed to the heavens. Their bodies no longer looked old, and their life force was vast and boundless. The killing intent in their eyes locked onto Ling Xiao. That's right. Ling Xiao, don't think that Nan Nan will come back to save you. I'm afraid she can't even protect herself now. You don't have any way out. Hand over the method to break through to the true god realm, then cripple your own cultivation. Then, we can spare your life. Murong Jin also sneered. Boom. 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 With the two of them as the center, the 81 experts all erupted with extremely terrifying auras at the same time. Their auras soared into the sky like smoke signals, causing the stars in the 9 heavens to instantly become dazzling and resplendent. Strands of starlight poured into their bodies, causing their aura to skyrocket once again. God-slaying array. Using the stars as a guide. It seems that the two of you have spent a lot of effort in these past few years. Not bad, not bad. Ling Xiao looked at Demon Lord and Murong Jin with interest and said with a faint smile. Ling Xiao, I hope that you can still smile in a while. Attack, teach him a lesson. Demon Lord's gaze turned cold as he roared. Rumble. Suddenly, the vast god-slaying array was activated. Starlight sprinkled down, containing the powerful power of the stars, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. An incomparably huge pillar of light descended, suppressing towards Ling Xiao. That pillar of light seemed to be able to annihilate everything. It did not seem like the power of the mortal world. Its power was terrifying to the extreme. Ling Xiao stood under the pillar of light. His beard and hair fluttered, and his clothes fluttered. His expression was incomparably calm, as if he did not notice the pillar of starlight above his head at all. For some reason, when they saw Ling Xiao's expression, Demon Lord and Murong Jin could not help but feel their hearts tremble. They had a bad feeling. Whoosh! Ling Xiao pointed a finger in the air. His finger was dazzling, and in an instant, it touched the pillar of light. Then, the void trembled, and the pillar of light shattered with a loud bang. Since you have chosen to betray me, betray the path of gods, then go where you belong. Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. Rumble. As the pillar of starlight shattered, the 81 experts, led by Demon Lord and Murong Jin, could not help but tremble. Blood spurted out of their mouths as they were suddenly sent flying. Ancestor Ling Xiao, please spare our lives. Demon Lord and Murong Jin both felt their scalps go numb. The threat of death welled up in their hearts, causing them to tremble uncontrollably. Their eyes were filled with unwillingness and regret. Bang! Ling Xiao lightly snapped his fingers in the void. Then, the world instantly fell silent. Demon Lord, Murong Jin, and everyone else floated in the void as if they were still. The expressions on their faces were completely frozen, and the light in their eyes was gradually dissipating. A gust of wind blew past, and everyone turned into ashes, completely disappearing from the world. Ling Xiao stood at the top of the Heaven's Link Peak, looking at the sea of clouds in front of him. His temperament was extraordinary, and he was like a celestial being. Big brother Ling Xiao, are you all right? An incomparably hurried voice sounded. Nan Nan was like a bolt of golden lightning, and instantly appeared at the top of the Heaven's Link Peak. Her eyes were filled with incomparable worry. Her clothes were covered in blood, and her face was incomparably pale. Her breathing had become incomparably chaotic, as if she had just experienced a great battle. I'm fine. Nan Nan, you've worked hard. Ling Xiao said with some pity. A vast aura of the divine path poured into Nanan's body, calming her aura. Nan Nan was already 50 years old. Wrinkles had begun to appear on her face, and the hair on her temples had turned white. She revealed a trace of lethargy. Although she looked more and more peerless and incomparably holy, it could be seen that she had also entered the twilight years. The worry and anxiety in her eyes made Ling Xiao's heart skip a beat. In the end, it all turned into a long sigh. Ling Xiao turned around and looked at the sea of clouds in front of him. He was slightly silent. Ling Xiao, you're really getting stronger and stronger. Even a void-shattering powerhouse can't do it as easily as you do. I'm really curious. What are you waiting for? All-Seer's eyes revealed a complicated and pleasantly surprised expression as he looked at Ling Xiao's back. I'm waiting for an opportunity. You should be very clear about how powerful Tai is. We only have one chance, so we must be fully prepared. Are you preparing to enter the cycle of reincarnation? Ling Xiao said softly. That's right. My lifespan has run out, and I'm about to enter the cycle of reincarnation. I hope that when I enter the cycle of reincarnation, I'll be able to see the hope of leaving. Please. All-Seer sighed softly. He bowed deeply at Ling Xiao, then turned around and staggered down the mountain. The heaven's might is like a prison. What are you trying to tell me? Ling Xiao muttered softly to himself. The vast sea of clouds in front of him suddenly shattered, revealing a vast world. The sun above the 9 heavens shone down with endless golden light.